Alrighty, and it appears that we are live, I think. So, for those of you who have seen this show before, what you see behind me is a hotel room, which is really not unusual. I am in Boston at the moment on a work trip, but I managed to sneak out and see some friends as well. Somewhat unusually, I do not have a pre-prepared speech today. Usually, there is something I can talk about nonstop for 20 minutes before we get going. Today is going to be a little bit different. I want to talk a little bit about the future of precision rifles and precision optics. And in order to accomplish that, I decided to bring a couple of people here to make for a nice conversation. So I'm going to bring them on. I have with me in the top right of the screen, Mr. Aaron Gines of Anarchy Outdoors. And the bottom of the screen, the gentleman with a haircut eerily similar to mine, is Scott Parks, formerly of Vortex, etc. So for those who are new to what I do here, I'll let them introduce themselves and I'll give you a little bit of my background. And then we'll go forward and have a bit of a discussion. If any questions come up, none of this is intended to be a lecture. Please put something in the chat box and we'll steer toward that. But the primary topic of the conversation, I see some new interesting rifles being introduced. I want to talk about where the world of precision rifles is going. I don't know if the three of us are going to agree on this or not. We did not have an early discussion. So let's start with Scott. Scott, introduce yourself, your background, and we'll go from there.
Sure, yeah. Scott Parks, as Ilya said, I was at Vortex from 2000, well, early 2010. Maybe it was late 2009. Early 2010, I think. Till just March this year. And then decided to take on a different venture. But really, I'm not representing a company here. I'm just kind of talking based off of my knowledge of what we're going to be talking about. So, currently I work at Geisley. And I would classify myself as a jack of trades, master of none, way closer to the master of none than the jack of all trades. When it comes to guns and optics.
The way the whole quote works, it's only part of the quote, right? Jack of all trades, master of none, but much, much better than having none, right?
Oh, sure. I guess I've never even heard that part.
No. That's actually the quote.
I was going to say, you've got to learn the back half of that quote.
Yeah, no kidding. See, I told you, master of none.
Quote.
I am the epitome of the quote.
Yeah. So but you also skipped on another relatively important, in this case, very relevant part of your biography, your shooting background.
Sure. Yeah, I've been shooting a while, but not a whole lot. I kind of got more of an interest in business the past few years than I have shooting, so it's been a little harder to get out. There was a time where there was a time when it was actually possible to do this that was not miss a match across the country, which I used to do. These days, I don't think you could possibly do that. I know there's no way you could because there's multiples on the same day. So
correct. Yeah. So back when you were shooting PRS, how high up did you get?
I don't think I ever got. I have multiple, top 25 bullets, which I don't even know if they still do that. They used to give out red top 25 bullets. I got lucky and won a couple of matches here and there. But nothing, it was nothing remarkable by any means.
So I'll say this: one match can be lucky, couple, maybe not so much, but it's just my personal opinion.
Well, it was a different game back there too. Back then it was less people. I was for years I was literally the only PRS shooter in Wisconsin. I think I brought Jim C to his first match, and I think he was the second shooter from Wisconsin to shoot PRS. Right. Well, this was before PRS was a thing.
Yeah,
but
that's fair. All right, Aaron, your turn.
I am playing with my audio because I sound really loud to myself. I am one of the co-founders of a company called Anarchy Outdoors. We started in 2015. I have been shooting competitively since 2016. I haven't won anything. I'm an average shooter in the centerfire world. In the rimfire world, I have a few accolades to my name, not a ton, but a few. But yeah, mostly started shooting centerfire PRS, and then I have match directed national 2-day matches, as well as some finales and regional stuff. And then the last few years, I've been mostly focused on the rimfire game. Done a lot of stuff in the rimfire game, and kind of like Scott, I'm taking a hiatus from the precision rifle stuff, and I'm starting to explore handgun and the we'll call it the goon squad gear type of stuff. So
Very cool. Thank you for that. Well, unlike this gentleman, I've been shooting competitions for a grand total of 11 months now. Shot my first match in January of this year. But I've played a little bit with optics and rifles over the years, just a tiny little bit. So my angle on it, I'm probably going to be more useful on the optics side, but I'm a general purpose nerd. And over the years, I've accumulated a little bit of knowledge of firearms as well. And we'll see if what we come up with makes sense. So let's start. Where shall we start? The world of precision rifles, in the grand scheme of things, has been impressively stagnant. We got, as an industry, we got very, very good at doing things we've been doing for 100 years really, really well. If you look at the makeup of a basic, I don't know, Mauser rifle or later Remington 700, we just got really, really good at doing that. We make very precise actions. We make spectacularly good barrels. We make much better stocks. Now we have the chassis guns and all that than we used to. But the fundamental makeup of how we build a rifle has not changed super dramatically over the years. Is that a fair statement? Scott looks like he wants to say something.
Oh yeah, no, I was muted, mentioning something to my wife real quick. No, I think that's fair. That if to clarify, I think just talking about the base system, right?
Correct. Yes.
Kind of like an AR-15, you can say the same thing. So the same logic would be, we've been using been modifying using the same base system as the original M16, right?
Correct. Yes.
But obviously the M16 and the AR-15, the M4, however, what do you want to call it, is much. I don't want to say it's much different because it's not, but it is all at the same time, right? Than the first ones.
We've got real good at optimizing stuff. We're not doing
exactly
new things, right?
Yep.
And the idea behind this live stream came about last week when Scott and I were chatting, and we started talking about the SICK SIC rifle, which is actually introducing some innovation here and there, which I like. And when I watched, I have not shot that gun yet. I'd like to at some point. And I was watching how it is made, etc. I was thinking of the Q Fix that I love dearly and I shoot all the time. And there are conceptually, there are some similarities. There are different guns. Conceptually, there are some similarities. And I was looking at that going like, all right, maybe this idea is spreading a little bit. Aaron, have you seen this SICK SIC, whatever it is, rifle?
I have not seen it in person, but I have done a decent dive onto it.
Okay. Well, let's do this. If you don't mind.
I don't know how publicly available that rifle is at the moment.
It's not very available yet, but there are a few circulating that people who have shot it.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get up close to them, I know they had it at the Nasty. I'll have to text one of the competitors that I know semi well and see if he had the opportunity to get hands on it.
Yeah, well, hopefully as we go into SHOT Show, maybe we'll have a little bit more a little bit of an opportunity to look at it more closely. So, Scott, what is special about this new Seekers rifle, in your opinion?
To me, it's just as special as when I would say Surgeon came along and did an integrated recoil lug and pick rail, for precision competition guns and slash sniper rifles. I think we can kind of use those interchangeably these days, right? To me, like I told you, I think when you texted me, one of the first things I told you, I said, in my mind, if executed properly, if we go through kind of the ladder of the history, I mean like physical ladder steps of the precision rifle. We could start back in the early 1900s, but just it's kind of a mishmash back then, right? So let's just say, if we start in the 60s, 70s, we got the first rung is the Remington 700. 80s, 90s, Accuracy International, as far as kind of some innovation goes, right? And I think this has the potential to be the third rung. And I really think it is going to be, whether it's Seekins or not. I don't, I don't know. I mean, Glenn's a great guy. I hope it is. But having it just gets rid of variables, right? Now you no longer have to worry about your action moving in the stock. You no longer have to worry about, a stock not being milled or inlet perfectly straight. You could, it's just a straight driving gun because it's one piece. You got a hybrid action slash chassis. And it's just one less thing to go wrong, so I think at that system. And then on top of that, obviously what the acronym stands for, the Seekins interchangeable caliber, right? So you can literally toollessly change calibers, change triggers, so change magazine well, change bolt head, swap out triggers as long as you had one pre-installed in the hanger. It's pretty compelling.
That's fair. Before I let Aaron chime in, do you know which rifle, to the best of my knowledge, was the first one to have an integral recoil lug?
Ooh, trivia. It would have been one of them I can't remember exactly because I don't know it would have been one of them from the early 1900s, late 1800s. Whether it was a Springfield or a Mosin or an Enfield, one of those.
No, Mosin, 1891 Mosin Nagant.
Okay. Yeah. I'll tell you, man, I know a good bit about guns. I really am lacking in the last century guns.
I collect all military ones, and I collect Mosin Nagants. And it's a very derided action for a good reason, and also very underappreciated action also.
Yeah.
They did a lot of very clever things.
Kind of like Tikkas were for years, right? Yeah. I mean, Tikkas just kind of came alive in the past 5 years, and they haven't changed.
They went from T1 to T3 to T3X. They also did an integral recoil lug, several other things.
I'm just saying just how great, what a good action it is for.
It's Tikka's problem is a marketing one.
Yep.
And their unwillingness to make multiple variations. It wasn't until Bagara started dropping the same rifle in a dozen different stocks that Tikka was like, they just came in and stole market share with a crappier product because all they did was change the stock.
Pretty much. Yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate assessment.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in the game. I mean, the precision rifle game really changed in 2015, and so did the optics game. I mean, 2015 was a very pivotal year on availability of
2015.
Yeah, 2015. Yep.
What happened in 2015?
Well, 2015 is where you start to see a shift in optics manufacturers, right? They started bringing the price down. They started giving you a scope with all of the features that you need for long range shooting. And then the Ruger precision rifle came out in 2015, which gave the everyday blue collar man the ability to buy a $800 rifle that was capable of, 1 MOA accuracy at 1,000 yards. And it was $800 when it came out. Now they're like, I don't know, $1,600-$1,700. But when they first came out, they were $800.
Interesting. So have you? Okay. So do you agree with Scott that something like this seek and sick rifle is the next evolutionary step?
Yeah, I actually want to chat on this because 2015 was a pivotal moment, right? That's where you got the Ruger precision rifle. Love or hate the Ruger precision all you want, whichever way you want to go. It provided everything needed for a very well thought out precision rifle, right? 70-degree throw, ability to take multiple different types of magazines. It's not a classically bedded action. The receiver set clamps on the side of it. Allows for an AR-15 pistol grip. There's a lot of people that don't like the buttstock on it. I like the Gen 1 buttstock. Adjustable cheek comb, adjustable length of pull. Handguard, first handguard that came out was key mod, but that's kind of 2015, that transitioned yet. But it gave you everything in an $800 package, where you'd have to go out and customize, or you have to go out and buy an AI. You got to go buy an AI to be able to use different magazines, or you're looking at. It kind of really changed the game. You can look at when Savage and some of the other companies started using AICS magazines as their standard. They started adopting the Tikka TX TAC or whatever.
Tikka TAC A1.
Yeah, the Tikka TAC A1 was their answer to the Ruger Precision, and they missed the mark by a mile. Integrated scope base, proprietary magazines, just a few things wrong with the Tikka, right? The Savage was able to do it by using an MDT chassis, right? They've used an MDT chassis to get kind of on the same par level as the Ruger Precision. So as we look at the Ruger, what it did in 2015, I think the SICK is elevating the game. And Scott mentioned all the reasons. It's a monoblock. You can swap out the magazine wells, the trigger free floats. Like, you can swap that. Like, highly modular and a pretty, I don't know, I think it's a pretty innovative platform. They've taken all of the lessons over the last 10 years, looking from the very high-end Kydex AI chassis to weapon systems to the very low, and they've compiled them all into one heck of a rifle.
Yeah, I'll agree with it. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. The other thing that's not quite as well known, and not to get this off track, but it's also has been developed along with certain companies that are working on high pressure ammunition. So it's been proof tested with much higher than normal proof loads by a ton, without getting into specifics that I'm not sure I can mention. So one thing I left out, I do a lot of government work that I can't talk about.
So does
the
Ilya.
video with Glenn from that wherever that was, that sniper thingy, and he talked about the high pressure stuff.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah, Glenn did.
Yeah, I mean, fully set up, you're looking at what? An 18, 20-pound gun that's capable of much heavier weapon systems. Like, it'll be a very, whatever Glenn is making it for, whatever contract that they're trying to win, it's one heck of an entry. I can only think of two other companies that have something similar. You have AI, and then there's a German company, Steiner. What?
Well, there's New Zealand. There's the Glacier Ridge rifle has a 3D printed monoblock.
Ritter and Stark, I think, is the German company.
Ritter Stark doesn't exist anymore. It was an Austrian company.
Oh, is it gone?
It is kind of gone and kind of coming back. But I
There's
don't think
my
they've done
there's
public
my
of their revival yet.
there's my patch from their SHOT Show booth at
Yeah.
2015-16.
I know a guy who is working with a consortium that I think bought the rights to the Return Stark thing, and
Okay.
it's probably gonna come back, but it's not public yet. So I'm not privy to all the military contracts. Best I can tell, looking at this new sequence rifle, is that somebody in the military world decided they want to push out the Barrett MRAD, and they probably went to Glenn and probably to a few other people who said, MRAD is what, 21, 22 pounds, something like that.
Are you talking the 50 cal Barrett or the new Mark 23 MRAD or
Not
whatever?
the 50 cal.
The Mark 22.
Yeah.
All of the snipers want to push out the Mark whatever that new one they're using. None of the snipers like that new one.
Interesting.
The MRAD. I don't know the designation of it. The MRAD whatever. They replaced.
It's the Mark 22.
Yeah,
Mark
the Mark 22. Yeah.
So basically, look at what military has. To me, it looks like somebody went to a few manufacturers, said, "Give me that, but weighing 15 pounds and without us having to deal with Barrett." It sounds like they were not happy with Barrett.
Yeah, the Mark 22 is not a great weapon system.
Really? Why? I don't know a whole lot about it.
I will put you in touch with my buddy named Chris. He's one of the sniper cadres that certify all the U.S. DoD sniper schools. He was at the Nasty. Yeah, I'll let him talk to you about it. But
I'm very curious.
He does not like the system at all.
Yeah, I've never had anything with the people from Barrett. I tried talking to them a couple of times, and once they figured out I'm not military, they had zero interest in even saying hello. So I kind of been ignoring Barrett for years. So I don't know a huge amount about what's been happening with their guns. Again, Scott may have more insight than I do.
Well, and then there's the video of the Marine racking it and it hang fired.
Oh, that's not nice.
Yeah.
Well, there's
other issues too.
There's probably 100 videos of that. And it's not Marines, it's Army.
Is it the Army?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I just remember seeing the Marine uniform in the video, but it's all good.
There may be. I mean,
he could have just been at they cross train all the time. So,
well, and yeah, it sounds like there are issues. It doesn't really hugely matter what they are.
Yeah.
So when I was looking at that new sequence rifle, I was thinking of my Q fix that those of you who watch this often know that I love very dearly. And since I am in New England, I went to visit Q. I was visiting a customer nearby. I stopped by there, took a couple of pictures. So this is what a fixed receiver looks like. It's a Bay receiver. This is, I don't remember if this is a fix or the mega fix, but it's partially the same idea. It's a very lightweight thing in that case, but it's basically this monoblock receiver. The barrel goes into the extension. It is tensioned. When you hook up a handguard to it, they have a screw that pushes it into the receiver longitudinally along the axis of the barrel. Okay. I've tested it. No matter where you put the pressure on the forearm of the fix, the point of impact doesn't change. It's not a modular receiver. It takes one particular type of the magazine, one particular trigger. But the way Q does the trigger, both parts of the sear are inside the bolt assembly. So the trigger itself is just a piece of metal. When you pull on the trigger, it basically pushes up onto something in the bolt assembly, and that is what disengages the sear. So there is nothing to break in the receiver itself. If you want redundancy spare parts, you just need one more bolt assembly, and that's it. You need nothing else. That essentially changes the trigger for all practical purposes because both parts of the sear are in the receiver. The fix has been around, I want to say, since 2007 or so. I think that sounds about
been that long.
Either 7 or 8. I think it's been a little while because that's how. So I got mine when I was I moved. No, not 7. No. Less 17, maybe 16, 17. Sorry.
I was gonna say because I don't think Q existed.
No. 2016, 17, maybe. I'm pretty sure it's less than 10 years, but I had it in California before I moved, and I moved in 2019. I had it for at least a couple of years before I moved, and I have mine is serial number 003. So I have a very, very early fix. Well, one and I have 4 of them.
Debuted 2017 shot.
Yeah, so that sounds about right. So it's very interesting that conceptually, again, as far as this monoblock receiver / stock part goes, was this the first one of the type? Can you think of anything that was really doing this prior to that? Because I can't.
I'm not sure. I wonder if anybody listening knows. I can't think of anything.
I don't think so. They may have been something, but I can't think of it. I mean, there were always some of these German guys, the Buzzers and others, but I think they have a separate stock. I think the receiver goes into something, or are they also monoblock receivers?
Go lay down.
Yeah, it's not a true monoblock, but what Accuracy International does is they bond their receiver into their chassis or their stock.
Not anymore, I don't think.
Used to.
They used to. So we were going back. Until Accuracy Obsession built a killer chassis, then they knocked it off. So it's all good.
Right.
But I've done some work with Sam over at Accuracy Obsession, and I remember his videos and talking to him on the phone about how you have to unbond the chassis and then or do all sorts of crazy things. But that's the closest. There's probably some weird Russian or German gun from 100 years ago that did it.
Not the bolt guns, not that I can think of. For early semi-autos, yeah. But that's kind of a different animal that were done for different reasons. But I think the first, commercially successful monoblock was the Fix, and then was a long gap. And now I'm seeing this new Sequence rifle, which takes it to a different level of modularity. The guys from Q were trying to do lightweight, general-purpose bolt gun, right? So it's a little bit of a different thing. And I was there today. They have a million different versions of the Mega Fix now, to do the bigger cartridges and all that. They are developing the concept very nicely. But Sequence is trying to do a general purpose precision rifle between the magazine wells and different grips and triggers and quick change barrels, taking everything from 308 to 338 Lapua into the same receiver. I mean, that's pretty innovative, right? And it's a very interesting way to build a gun. I had this discussion with somebody who was trying to convince me a couple of weeks ago of how nice it is to be able to change stocks and all that. So why is it a weakness, potentially a weakness, to have a separate stock, to have a receiver fit into a stock? Okay, anybody want to tackle that?
What? State that question again. You led me one way, and I think you're asking a different question where my head was going.
I always thought that I've spent a lot of time bedding receivers into stocks, right?
Mm-hmm.
I always thought that the way we do them is a bad idea, and a monoblock is an advantage.
Yeah.
What are you? Why? Why is it an advantage, right? So people have been bedding them for the longest time and all that.
So I think I don't think it's very obvious to a lot of people because I think they just blame their load or the scope or the mount or the barrel coming from the scope market and being in Wisconsin around all the barrel makers. I can tell you 90% of people blame the scope and the barrels or the barrels. So when you're seeing these kind of micro shifts over time or during a match, a lot of times that kind of stuff can be traced back to the stock action interface because you're literally depending on, it's not like it's, if you don't have your receiver and stock bonded together, it's not like it's pinned to the stock, right? So you're literally relying on shoulder bolts to hold something in place and a recoil lug, but there's still room for a little bit of movement, which will change things, which will show you those little changes in your point of impact. I can tell you when somebody wants to join here.
Well, get him in the picture.
So when you For example, I happen to know that Seekins rifle, before and after shooting the nasty, had the same point of impact shift, and shots before and many shots after, right? It didn't change. And I can promise you that rifle took some hits during that match. If you've never been out there, this is actually the first year I missed. It's a rough terrain, and Brian has those guys literally sliding down mountainsides.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I've never been to that one, so I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, the rifles they're taking them, they're getting used. So for those listening that aren't familiar with Hat Creek or the Nasty, it's a pretty much a tier 1, tier 2, but mostly tier 1 contracted training facility, essentially, out in the mountains of Idaho.
All right, so that's significant. Very interesting.
Yeah, and I think Brian is usually booked out at a minimum. He limits it, but so basically every week that he wants to work, which generally is well over 40 weeks a year. So I think he books it a week at a time with those guys. So
Hat Creek is the premier high elevation angled shooting school probably in the United States, if not the world. Like that's what they specialize in.
Yeah.
So.
Very interesting. I don't know. My epiphany with this whole stock chassis thing has been, well, first of all, so I shoot with the fix. I shot 9 matches this year with 2 different fixed rifles, and I zeroed them earlier in the year. Both of them are set up for that. They're set up with a Area 419 mount and a tangent scope, one with a 5-25, one with a 7-35. I shoot factory ammo, but I bought a bunch of ammo from the same lot for both rifles in different calibers. And through travel, through driving, through flying, through whatever, I did not have a zero shift. Everything is exactly where it needs to be. But honestly, my epiphany happened some years ago when I went to the Lapua Rimfire Test Center in Arizona. I took my precision rimfire there because I wanted to see which Lapua ammo will work best, and we found a lot that worked well, and I bought a bunch of it, etc. And there on the wall, they had this little printout for a bunch of different rimfire rifles, and the printout was the torque settings for the action screws, right? For this action in the Woodstock, it was this torque setting, in the chassis it was this torque setting, and this whole. I even took a picture at some point. I think I don't know where it is now. And I'm looking at this, and I'm talking to the guy there, and he sees a ton of rimfire rifles, as you can imagine. Like we're sitting at a shooting tunnel. That's what he does. And I asked him, so what happens if I miss the torque settings? They give you a little bit of a range, but if I'm well below it or well above it, etc. He goes, well, the rifle is not going to shoot well. And I'm looking at that going like, that can't be a good system. Right.
Now, you also have to put it in context, right? You're talking about 22s, and a guy that's dealing with customers where groups that the majority of the country have never shot, the majority of shooters have never shot with a centerfire rifle, are too big for that customer.
Correct.
Right. I mean, if your whole run is larger than the size of a pencil eraser, that's too big in that game. When we're talking about Olympic.
Well, at 100 yards, no. I mean, it's bigger than that. But these are we're shooting.
Yeah, I'm talking about Olympic 50.
Well, sub-MOA rimfires. But my point still remains, right? So if you are seeing a clear dependence in between the torque of the action screws and how well your rifle shoots, it is a weakness in the system, right? That simply indicates that there is an interaction happening there that you do not want to have.
If you can avoid it, absolutely.
Yeah. And the monoblock receiver is really what gets rid of that.
I had an interesting one this weekend, or not this weekend, last weekend. My two business partners are big hunters, and I was chatting with their other brother about how they were out deer hunting. They zeroed the rifle. Everything looks good. Every time he pulls the trigger, he's 2 feet high, 2 feet high, dials down to still 2 feet high. Like the thing's just doing whatever. So
Okay.
they do what you always do. You check the scope, you torque the screws, do the base. Well, they decided to take it out of the stock. Turns out the carbon fiber stock it was in had cracked in front and behind both action screws. So the action was just floating and wiggling. Every shot was doing something different. So I mean, there is something behind why you'd want a single monoblock piece, right? Because it's like anything, right? And Scott probably knows better than everybody because he works for Geisley. Tolerance stacking, lower this part plus this part plus this part plus this part, all have different tolerances, and they stack together. And the least amount of parts you can have, the lesser amount of tolerance stacking you get.
Yeah. Well, just a correction. I know even more of that because I worked in optics for 15
Yeah,
years.
that too. Yep.
Which is much more critical.
I think people can relate because like you take a lower receiver and an upper receiver, and there's a gap sometimes, and like Geisley makes awesome stuff, but like you can take, I mean, just different AR parts as you start to hodgepodge them together. It's like, yeah, there's a reason you buy match receiver sets when you do precision AR type stuff. So,
All right, that's actually a good segue. I was about to bring up accurate semi-autos, but you did it for me. So So when we talk about accurate semi-autos, most of the time in this country, at least, we're talking about different AR variants, right? So what makes them shoot well or not well?
I'm going to defer to Scott on this one.
Yeah, I know Aaron is not an AR guy, so let's put Scott in the spot.
Quite honestly, I mean, I think if you, a lot of it comes down to just chamber and a decent barrel. Quite honestly, I mean, ARs are just inherently accurate guns.
Does it matter on the bolt head lock up into the barrel?
I mean, to an extent, sure. To an extent, okay. Absolutely. But I mean, obviously, you don't want the bolt bearing on one lug for many reasons, though, right? But really, in my opinion, I think really ARs, just since the barrel's free floated, nothing's touching it. You've got a bolt that somewhat floats a little bit, right? It's more free floating than what we'd call a floating bolt head on a bolt rifle for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's an inherently accurate system. Obviously, if you have a super loose upper to lower fitment, you can have some inconsistencies with that. I would say the other biggest thing is having a trigger with a fast lock time, right? Because, well, and with so I would argue that even the biggest problem with semi-autos versus bolt gun is they are much less forgiving, right?
So if you of shooting form, or
yes, so as far as fundamentals, or as far as shooting fundamentals go, they're much less forgiving. This is why you don't see somebody cleaning house in the PRS with a gas gun, right?
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I suck anyway. I shot my last local match with a gas gun. My results were about the same, but I had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, when you're competing for the last 10 spots, you can't change much.
I'm good. That is where I compete. that is where I compete.
Oh, I'm just giving you a hard time. I have
So
no
to
idea where
appreciate
you're competing at.
when I shot my first Narrow Hunter match, I called Scott. I said, Scott, I'm shooting a match. The battle for the last spot just got hot.
You know,
I watched Ilya shoot a match, so I understand. He watched me shoot one too, and we battle for that last spot.
I beat you.
Yes,
Well,
you
to be
did.
fair, I
Yes, you
was
did. Yes, you did beat me.
so in my defense, Aaron found me a teammate who, and it took us the first 5 stages to just zero his gun. Okay,
yeah, that'll do it.
Which is sad because it's the most accurate barrel action I own.
and the funny thing, and that guy is actually a good shot, but it just a little bit of preparation was like. Yeah, but I will say this: I found him hilarious, and I had the most fun I had in the match.
Calvin's
Just
a wild
watching
character,
him wrap
man.
himself around the axle, it was hilarious.
He's a wild character.
Yeah, that was a lot of
Yeah.
fun. So Scott,
So-
are gonna come shoot that match
yeah.
with us next August? You should.
That's way too far out for me to
Well,
say
you
yes
know,
to that.
It's
November.
it's
I
a
wanted-
veteran-owned organization. Tell Geisley to send you out with a gas gun. Come and shoot it.
So I wanted to be on the record that I started harassing Scott about coming to shoot that sniper match with us in Montana now in November, and I will not stop.
Let's do it. If you get bored, Scott, you can look up Tony Cowden. He's the one that puts it on for his not-for-profit. They take veterans out hunting. Well, they teach them how to hunt, and they take them out. There's a ranch in Montana that gives them tags and free reign. So they spent the last 4 weeks out hunting, and then we did a sniper match on that he put on, and Tony is friends with Chris and another guy named Scott. These guys they've been for years and years shooting the international sniper comps, and so it was just really fun. Very different match, very different than even a team NRL hunter. It was a lot of it was, can you communicate with your partner? Like the shooting, like it was a little difficult, like the timing. But like if you couldn't talk to your partner in a reasonable way, you weren't getting anywhere.
So I will say this: when Aaron and I shot it on Friday, and then we RO'd the rest of the match. Somehow the part times between Friday and Saturday got longer. I don't know how that happened. But
Some of them doubled.
well, because
and-
Tony didn't want to be murdered, I think. But
And they didn't shoot day 2 in the wind like we did.
yeah, we had a fun match.
It was so much fun though.
Yeah,
It was a blast.
It was a blast. But going back to gas guns, so and again, the reason I bring the gas guns up, I shoot a lot of gas guns, probably more than either one of you by a solid margin. And because I'm very friendly with the guys from Q, I've been kind of watching the development of the boombox, which is a very interesting gas gun. It's their small, large frame AR, for now an 8.6 blackout, but there'll be other variants coming. And okay, Mr. Conbucket, what's that man's name again? His name is Tony Cowden. I'll put it in the chat box, and I'll end the name of the match. Tony's an interesting story.
Yeah. He's done some podcasts. You can go find him on Jocko, Sean Ryan, JP Donnell. He just did another one the other day that was very, very interesting.
So the match is called the TRT Sniper. TRT is just the name of that range, Thorson Range Training. That's where we are in Montana. Where we did this in Montana. Loved it. If you like, I will say this, right? So I'm new to match shooting, but I shot now 10 matches in 2025 because for those of you who don't know, I have a mildly obsessive personality. And if I decide to do something, I actually do it. And like one of the Vortex guys, Paul Nice, at some point he decided to invite me to a hunt back in 2021. He did not know what he was doing and what effect it would have. I did more hunting since then in the last 4 years than most of my lifetime hunting friends have in their lives. So, but anyhow, so I put the name of the match in the chat box. Going back to the
I sent you a picture
Yeah, I'm looking at that.
of
What is that?
a new AR rimfire upper with a
Oh,
precision barrel, and they are getting really good accuracy out of it. I don't remember the name of the company, but I'll get the name of the company for you because
okay,
I
that's
think it
interesting.
may be interesting for you to look at.
That
So
is interesting. Okay. So
yeah,
let's shelve that for a moment. I want to
they're
get back
doing
to it.
18 and 24-inch barrels.
All
So
right, now I'm interested.
yeah.
Okay. So let's go back to semi-autos. So I've been looking at the development of the boombox, and something that I've been thinking about, and again, Scott and I have talked about in the past, how is the handguard mated to the rifle? It sort of makes a difference. I started looking at this. I put together an AR-15 for my son to shoot. He wants to shoot a team match with me in Wyoming next year, and it has a full-length Arca rail, like 18-inch handguard, full-length Arca rail. And depending on where I put the bipod on that gun, I can see that the point of impact shifts a little bit. Okay. Huh. Interesting. So, Rick,
So
we'll touch on your comment momentarily.
so 1 second. So you were saying you have a boom box for your son.
I do not have a boombox yet. That was a regular
Okay.
AR-15.
So you built a regular
Regular
AR-15
AR-15
for
with a
him.
nice and accurate white oak barrel, long
Okay.
Arca rail. Depending where I slide the bipod, my point of impact shifts a little bit.
Okay. So you're seeing flex somewhere. Okay. Perfect.
The handguard's flexing a little bit because it is clamped around the back of the barrel, like all the ARs are. It is impacting it slightly.
Okay.
Okay, it's not a big difference. On a AR looking fixed bolt gun, I don't have that shift. Lord knows I've looked for it, right? When I started looking at how Q is redoing the AR handguard for the boombox, here is the boombox receiver. Okay, there are a couple of interesting things happening here. So it looks very much like an AR-15 receiver. There's an extension up front here. That's where the barrel goes. But the way the handguard is attached, you don't quite see it here. Once a handguard is on there, there are a couple of screws that are longitudinally along the axis of the barrel, pushing it into the receiver before it is clamped around this barrel extension. And from everything I've seen so far, this is probably so the stiffest handguard. They were trying to solve two problems. One is the barrel deflection if you put some sort of pressure on a handguard. Another one they were trying to solve, it seems, is that if you have an aiming laser on the handguard, how to make sure that there is as little flex in the handguard as possible so that the laser is aiming in the same place if you're loaded up or something like that. Is there some sort of an evolution happening in the AR world, or is everybody just leaving it alone because it shoots?
Oh no, that's it's definitely a topic of discussion
All right.
all over, and requirements.
Okay. So what's happening there?
As far as
What are people doing to ARs to make them? Am I crazy in thinking there is this dependence between how the handguard is attached and where the barrel is pointing?
oh god, no, absolutely. I mean, you're attached to the barrel nut. The barrel nut's attached to the barrel tenon, and the barrel is in the barrel tenon. So it's if you don't have something to mitigate that, yes, absolutely is a thing.
So who is trying to solve this, trying to do something different? What is out there?
So, well, obviously where I work, and then you've got Ridgeline Defense. Seekins did it a while back.
Yeah, they also have a custom upper with an extension that's beefier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
IRMT.
There's no way to do it without having some. I don't believe, anyways. I don't think there's a way to totally eliminate it without having some sort of proprietary upper receiver, a custom, like a standard mil-spec upper receiver, whatever mil-spec means.
Nobody knows what that means.
Well,
Sorry, what I meant is it's a really loose standard.
Yeah, well, it's not. There's the mil spec. The problem is the TDP is not public. FN has theirs, Colt has theirs, and all the companies that used to make them for the military back in the day that went out of business or don't no longer make them have them hidden somewhere probably. But they've been modified since then, right? So Colt and FN are really the only two companies that have an actual mil spec TDP for ARs because it's not
So for
publicly
those who
available
are not
information.
in the TDP, stands for technical data package.
Correct. So, but so mil spec and mil standard are kind of two different things that are totally misunderstood by the overwhelming majority of the public. But anyways, I think before we get too long, I don't know how long you want to stay on here, Ilya, but we have not really mentioned optics whatsoever, and it's in the title.
We're gonna get to the optics momentarily. I have some strong opinions on it, as you may guess.
Scott's not used to our 4-hour sessions.
Well, he's been here with me for a couple of times, but
Yeah. Oh, I don't care. I just usually I feel like you try to limit it to an hour or so. So that's why.
no, I usually do 2 hours. So.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
perfect then.
Yeah.
We're fine.
So no, I'm actually looking at the clock, but here's an interesting comment from Mr. Hamby. An AR-15 in 6 AR Turbo would have dominated PRS. PRS has kept gas guns out of the sport for a long time. 6mm AR Turbo is basically a dash. I thought it was more like 6 ARC. Or is it bigger than ARC?
I don't remember. I will say this in the most polite way. It's it's great, Mr. Amby, but it's wishful thinking. PRS has not kept gas guns out of the sport. The shooters have kept gas guns out of the sport. That's why there's a specific gas gun division, right? And the gas gun can win overall.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't, right? So
this year's golden bull won with a 6.5 Creedmoor.
Yeah, it's not.
Oh yeah, that's right?
and not the first time.
Yeah, I mean he switches back and forth depending on what he's doing, but he's got
6.5 Creedmoor, not Morgan.
Yeah, sorry, Morgan shoots a 6- or a 6.5 Creedmoor depending on what he's doing. But with those new 156s, he's been just having a blast.
He's shooting 156 burgers.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, most of those guys, both Austins, most of the Oklahoma guys have gone to the heavy, either 6.5 47 or 6.5 Creedmoor.
I thought the
153s
with 25. Go back 6.
Yeah. Yeah, Clay. I know Clay was. I can't remember and they were. I don't know if but yes, all of them.
I think is it Eagle Eye Precision. I think is loading all of Morgan's bullets, and I don't think the availability of 25 stuff has been available enough. But like Morgan's fundamentals are so solid that a 6.5 does not bother him in the slightest.
Is it like if you're shooting a 25-pound gun, is it really that big a difference between a 6.5 and 25?
Well, he has a Stinger brake on the end of it too. And if you've never shot a Stinger brake,
I've never even heard of a Stinger brake.
It's the brake that was on the end of that gun I shot at the competition.
Oh, that thing was fucking loud.
Yeah, but it works.
It's a brake of mass destruction, mostly eardrums.
If you weren't streaming on YouTube, I would pull it off the wall and show Scott, but maybe I'll send him a picture
YouTube
afterwards.
Is gonna kill us, yeah.
But that's why I said.
So. Yeah, okay.
I'm familiar. I don't need to see muzzle brakes. Yeah. I don't need to. You might as well show me. Might as well just. I equate it. You might as well just show me your rape victims. That's what I think of muzzle brake shooters.
Well, it works.
I don't know that works, but in the Hunter this year they changed the weight rules a little bit to accommodate people like me who want to shoot with a suppressor.
Yeah, which is awesome. Yeah. So,
well, I think they went the wrong way. Now, if you're shooting a suppressor, 12 pounds, what used to be open light used to be 12 pounds together. Now it's 12 pounds and 12 ounces if you're shooting a suppressor. I want them to go the other way. I want them to limit it to like 10 pounds or 11 pounds, so people shoot with real hunting rifles.
Yeah, well, they don't want people to have to buy a whole new rifle. Ilya, that's the point. We're trying to get more people into shooting, not push them away, not appease Ilya.
We hunt out west, Ilya. We're not scared of a 12-pound, 13-pound hunting rifle.
I hunt out west. I'm scared. I was just hunting in Montana with a rifle that was 7 pounds with a suppressor and a tangent. But I will freely admit that I don't think I'd do real well in a match with it. So,
right. Yeah. You know what? I just want to say, Rich made another comment there, and I agree. You can run a 1,000-yard match, but a PRS match is a different ballgame.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, most PRS matches are 1,200 yards.
Well, it's not even that. It's the clock. It's the different positions. Everything. It's just a different ballgame.
Have you shot the Hornady PRC in Utah? So
yeah.
I live just an hour south of there.
Where everybody has to stay.
Well, so I live the other direction. I don't live up in Wyoming. I live farther south. If you drove across all the mountains, you could actually get there directly out my back door, but you gotta go on all the dirt roads. But like the Hornady PRC, they go out to a mile.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even a mile shot with a bolt gun is difficult, but like a gas gun, they're just not as inherently accurate as Scott was saying. I mean, they are accurate, but they just don't hold. I don't know. They just don't hold the same level.
It's not. Precision. No, I think they do. I think they do. It's just shooting them as well as they can be shot consistently. A bolt gun is much more forgiving.
You think it's just the mechanics of how it's all put together, the stock, how you hold it?
100%.
It's not as rigid, maybe. I don't know. So.
Well, it's just the fundamentals. I mean, you have to. There's feedback versus no feedback, right?
Look,
so
the simple truth is that with a semi-auto, you have to hold on to the gun more.
Yes, 100%.
Is the distances extend, that small impact from your body holding onto the gun will make a difference.
I mean, that makes sense. I haven't shot gas guns a ton. I have a 6-arc that I built, and I was able to squeeze 1.2 MOI out of it at 100 yards. But I think if I changed the muzzle device on the end of it and
put the suppressor on, yes.
Yeah, and did a few things, I think I could probably dial it in. But yeah, I mean, so yeah. They're different animals for Richard. They're just very different animals.
Yeah. So here's a comment from Brandt, and I will go to optics momentarily. I used some green Loctite on my last 22 arc barrel extension. That's generally a good idea. Shoots excellent. Not sure if it is totally needed. My other just tucked the barrel in and shoots excellent as well.
Right. So now, does he mean Loctite on the threads on the barrel to apply
not
barrel extension?
On the barrel extension, when you insert the upper receiver.
Right. Well, that's where I was getting.
You would benefit from Loctiting them a little bit to the upper receiver, unless you have the upper, like So Q with that Q receiver I just showed. Is it still there? Yeah. So here up top, you could tension this for receiver extension over the barrel extension. On a traditional AR, you cannot. See at the top there is a screw. It goes horizontally.
Yeah, I don't know if you're pointing a cursor at something, but we don't see your cursor or anything.
You don't see a cursor. Let me see it.
I don't know
right
here.
But there we go. The screw's at the top.
Yeah, see the screw at the top? What it does, it allows you to basically squeeze this receiver extension over the barrel tenon. Okay. With semi-autos, it seems like that makes a significant role for accuracy. There are quite a few AR-15 uppers that you need to warm them up a little bit before you can pop the barrel in there. The Bravo BCM actually does this, and quite a few others. They undersize it ever so slightly, the receiver. So you hit
most of your higher ends are thermofit.
Correct, yeah. So
including gas box.
Yeah, correct. So if you pop a little bit of this pipe locking green Loctite onto the barrel extension before you do that, empirically it seems to aid accuracy.
Right, I get that. I was looking for clarification of what he meant from he said, because he wasn't clear.
Well, green Loctite on the barrel extension, I think that's what he meant. So,
Well,
well,
the
we'll
barrel
let him,
extension
we'll
has.
let him come in if my perception is
I
incorrect.
think you're probably right. I'm just saying the question wasn't
Yeah, good.
specifying.
So, is it required? Maybe, maybe not. But I've had.
I think it's debatable, in my opinion.
Me being me, for shits and giggles, I've done a ton of experiments on that since somebody first told me about it. It seems to make my ARs more consistent. I'm getting fewer flyers. So, but again, it's never a perfectly clean experiment, right? So I've tried to do it with the same barrel. Okay, so the correct extension prior to snag it at the receiver.
Yeah.
So I've tried to do this on a non-thermofit upper with the same barrel after break-in, and it seemed to produce results. But these are not significant results.
Right.
Like with anything, the quality of the components is going to drive this whole thing. You have to have a nice barrel. You have to have quality stuff. Everything has to fit together properly. If it doesn't, green Loctite is not going to help you. But if you start out with decent components, it seems to get you just a little bit more statistical consistency.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember who it was. I think it's Bat. I think Bat used to sell a kit of AR barrel extensions that were, multiple sizes that you could try to sit. Maybe it wasn't a kit, or they just sold multiple different ODs. Essentially, I'm almost certain it was Bat at the behest of the AMU back in the early 2000s.
Okay, that would not surprise me. So with Q again, I talked to them about it when I first saw that boombox upper receiver. They basically said, yeah, they used a somewhat similar idea on the FX, and it worked extremely well in terms of making a consistent fit between the handguard and the receiver, and decoupling it somewhat from what the barrel does. And they decided to do something relatively similar on their latest and greatest gas gun, also with good results.
And then the other obvious, if anybody's not thinking about it, is monolithic upper, right? LMT.
Yeah.
Colt 6. I mean, the Colt 6940 kind of does that, but
to some degree, yeah. But monolithic upper is good, but they're relatively few, and with all of the ones I've seen, you end up paying a weight penalty for that. So I don't know if it's necessarily required. That you can probably make them lighter, but all the ones I've seen, there was a weight penalty. So it sounds like we're in reasonable agreement for, at least with precision guys, the next evolutionary step is this monoblock receiver. It takes away yet another variable of trying to mate a receiver to a stock or chassis of some sort.
Right.
So what's the next step with rifle scopes? Where is this going? And since I've been picking on Scott for an hour now, and since he wants to talk about optics, let's ask Aaron.
Oh, I don't know anything about optics.
I have complete faith in you.
I'm going to phone a friend, Scott. So have your phone ready.
Because I'm trying to avoid me beginning to talk. I can start talking about optics, and we'll still be here in the morning, and I'm not done with my monologue, right? So
that's fine. I can drool while I sit here. So.
Yeah, it's hard to. I'll tell you, it's hard to say. In my humble opinion, I don't know if it's the next step. It's an inevitable step. I just don't know if it's the next step is digital. Right. I mean, the sensors are getting better and better, literally, like, seems like on a weekly basis. The semiconductor industry is just, I mean, they've got the pedal to the metal, for the past, 10, 15 years? Really, the past 5 or 6 years, it's taken some huge leaps, I feel like. Ilya, you can probably chime in a little better on that than I can.
Yeah, I'm going to disappoint you with that, but go ahead.
Disappoint me in what way?
Because last 5 years, actually, nothing's happened.
Really?
Yep. What you are seeing in the last 5 years was not developed in the last 5 years.
Sure. Well, that's what I mean. Kind of what's been what you're seeing now. Yes, the development stuff obviously takes a long time.
With image sensors, we're actually kind of hitting the limits of the fundamental science a little bit.
Sure. Well,
Now,
I'm just talking semiconductors in general, though.
yeah,
I
correct.
guess is kind of what I was
Yeah,
talking about.
semiconductors are making a huge difference. Let me shut up for a moment. I want to let you guys talk for a little bit because I'm curious what else you're going to come up with. There are several things I do want to talk about.
Sure.
I would agree with Scott, and things are going electric, right? There are more and more electronics in the optics. You can see that with Vortex's new scope that they won the military contract with. It has a massive electric profile to it, but what we're learning in Ukraine is analog is important when you start playing with an adversary of the same technological reach that you have. So, and then the other part of the optics is the thermal. I think you're going to see massive innovations in how to defeat thermal technology, which will be interesting to see over the next few years. So there's kind of a blend of the optics, right? I think you're seeing more and more electronics, but then you're going to see a counter electronics as well. So
Interesting. So
and then sorry, the other thing is I think optics are going to become more and more affordable in different classes. You always have the super high end optics, but the middle and the lower optics are the option sets and the technologies are improving. They're becoming more cost friendly, I guess is a better way to say that.
Yeah, I think we might have peaked that out. I could be wrong there.
It's hard to tell with
but
the tariffs and the inflation and different things like that, but you
right.
could be right. We may have peaked it.
Yeah, but yeah, we'll see there. Um, yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one to predict there, I think. But I think the optics grew a lot in the past 15 years, right? And I would say Vortex is probably one of the biggest reasons for that, quite honestly. Whether it's stuff they did or stuff they did and other companies responding to stuff they did, right? It was somewhat stagnant before. I mean, heck, all these new companies popped up in my mind because, in my opinion, I should say, um, because before Vortex came around, you had Nikon, Leupold, Bushnell, right, and the select few people that knew about Schmidt and Bender, and Zeiss had a couple offerings, those
you're
phenomenal
forgetting IR Valdada.
What's that?
You're
Yeah.
forgetting
Oh
IR
yeah.
Valdada.
I'll tell you, man. Optically, if you got a good one back in those days, they were pretty hard to beat.
I like to crap over IR Valdada because I don't get along with Val, but he finally sold the company. Somebody else now owns Valdada. And they no longer do IR, they're just doing Japanese scopes. Because there was nothing really between Leopold and Schmidt and Bender, and IR for a little bit filled that niche and kind of showed the market what could really sell. Then everybody else took advantage of it, and IR never got that quality.
Yeah, and again, enter 2015, right? You get Athlon Optics. They came in. They were one of the first to come in with a $350 scope that ticked all the boxes. And then they and this is an outsider opinion, Scott. So you can tell me you worked at Vortex probably during this time. I started my company in 2015, and I watched Athlon come onto the scene, and I watched some of these other optics companies, Element Optics, and some of these others come onto the scene. But Athlon came in and filled a niche that hadn't been quite filled by Vortex, and then Vortex responded, which is where you get the Diamondback Tactical and the Strike Eagle and some phenomenal scopes as they were responding to what Athlon did. Once Athlon did that, then you got like it felt like the gates got unlocked and you got all sorts of optics companies now. But that's just my opinion. From I entered the market, I entered the precision rifle world in 2015, and that's just kind of what I have seen for the last 10 years.
Right. Yeah, and that's I would agree with you with the end result. How it got there, I believe, is a different story.
Oh yeah, I mean, totally.
but-
Vortex working in the factories, doing whatever, right? Like,
Yeah, it you know, the thing with you know, I think it's interesting, you know, because these companies, you know, I think the majority of them know somewhat what they're doing if they're somewhat successful, right? So if they're not filling a niche, it's not because they don't want to. It usually has something else to do with capacity, with everything else, figuring out how to build that as they grow, type things, right? Now, with other, you know, or it could be that with certain companies, it could just be that it's not ran very well, so they can't figure out how to get to it, that type of thing. But yes, it's been, like I said, it's been great. I think, to your point, it's you know, Vortex kind of came on the scene and showed that Leupold, Bushnell, and Nikon weren't the only names in the game, right?
Well,
you know, of course, I left out
Night
Night Force. I shouldn't. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which for political reasons, but which is sad, but whatever, it is what it is. You know, I kind of left out Night, and I'll tell you, Night Force doesn't get enough credit. You know, Night Force really led the. I think they really led. If anything, they led the road to focusing more on durability. You know, and I'm glad they did.
that was always one of the jokes when I first started shooting PRS was your Gen 1 Vortex Razor have the return label ready to go at the beginning of the match because you're putting it in the box at the end. So that's just what I picked up, like, from shooting matches back in 2015. I never saw one go down. That's just what I picked up.
I'll tell you the biggest thing there, and this is the number one thing you see with Night Force at matches too, is people not setting set screws.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean,
But,
I run a company where we make parts for all the blue collar rifles, right? Savages, Tikas, Rugers, and most of the reasons why customer service calls us is just human error. So
100%. And I would say that's across the board for all the options companies. Honestly, it's, I mean, 99% of stuff sent in.
I was going to make one
other variables.
One other comment on the 2015 era is the consumer. There was a lot of consumer education that happened, right? The consumer, unless you were like deep into precision, you know, shooting, most consumers didn't know what a turret was or how to use a turret, or why do you need a non-BDC reticle? What's a mill reticle? Why do you need a Christmas tree? Like, all of these things. And I think that education happened. Vortex did a good job on educating, but that education started and really spurred in that time period. So
bringing up this interesting point, because I think Horus reticles changed the market and got the ball rolling. What's your take on that?
I mean, there's some truth to it in a way.
Again, like Scott said, Horus filled a niche that was needed. And I mean, I'm not a huge fan of their reticles. If you're hunting human beings, some of their reticles are amazing. So,
yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I think just to go back to the Razor there, because you got to remember you're talking about some of my children here. So
sorry, Scott. Didn't mean to hurt your feelings.
Oh no, I'm just gonna.
He only has one
I'm
feeling
just.
that's perfectly safe from you.
I'm going to. I'm just going to correct it. Um, the I mean, maybe Gen 1 PSTs, but I can
That's
give you a direct.
a-
I can give you for competition shooting. You know, I could see that because it was easy to over torque rings, that type of thing. But the 5-20s were bomb proof. I mean, heck, the thing that kicked off the 5-20s was Frank Galley blowing it up with tannerite down at Rifles Only, and then shooting a group afterwards, right? I mean, with chunks out of the stock and dents in the scope and everything. You know, and if that wasn't the case, 4 months after the Gen 2 razors hit the market, they would have not have been the number one scope in the PRS, right? Like literally 4 months after release, they were more than double the number one scope used in the PRS.
The
right?
Gen 2.
The Gen 2, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I've never had a
So,
problem with the Gen 2.
right, I get that, but would you have bought a Gen 2 if all you heard was nothing but horrible things about the Gen 1? Right when it was released?
No.
Exactly, right? So I think it was I think you may have got sucked into some internet nonsense.
Well, it wasn't the internet nonsense. It's just from the shooters that were in my area, right? It's sometimes you get bad information, right, just from people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I was being a little persnickety with that comment because I mean I came into the culture and that was the culture in Utah at the time was the Gen 1 Razor was good for one rifle match.
Oh, I bet you were friends with there's a certain guy on Sniper's Hide that to this day will claim he had issues when I can show you that he didn't.
Probably. There's a lot of shooters.
I'm trying to think of his name.
We can talk offline. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, no,
I probably know.
Yeah, no, it was. But the zero stop setting the zero stop was the brunt of the problems for sure.
I mean,
right? It wasn't a fantastically designed zero stop. I mean, it was great at the time, but end user wise, you could screw it up pretty easily if you didn't follow the directions.
So the Gen 3 Razor is my favorite rimfire scope. I absolutely adore the Gen 3 Razor.
Yeah, it's a nice scope. So we'll say this, right around the time when Gen 1 Razor came out and became fairly popular. Again, I'm as far as rifle scopes go, I'm sort of the creature of the internet. I think that was right around the time when crapping all over Vortex became fashionable.
Oh no. No, I think
because
I don't think that came around till
really noticed it.
I think that came around because wait, you said Gen 1 or Gen 2?
Gen 1. At the tail
the Gen 1?
Gen 1, people will start. That's when people were just beginning to crap all over Vortex.
No, the Gen 1 came out in 2009. Nobody even knew. The most popular question I got was, "Who's Vortex?" So I don't think.
Oh, I started seeing it just before Gen 2 was introduced. And
sure.
I remember
would have been like 2014.
Around there. Like toward the tail end of the run from the Gen 1, I was beginning to see it, and I could never figure out where it comes from because I tried to dig into it, and Gen 1 was robust. Yeah. It was a robust scope. But I distinctly remember that all this stuff, if you have a Vortex, you will need that warranty, started just before Gen 2 was introduced. And I thought it was interesting, right? So, going back a little bit on some of the things you guys said earlier, I thought some of it is right in my wheelhouse. So, talking about digital rifle scopes first. Generally speaking, yeah, they are coming. They're getting better. They're getting better and better and better. There are still going to be some limits on how they proliferate. With image sensors right now, we kind of hit the wall a little bit in terms of fundamental laws of physics of how many photons we can collect, etc. So unless we see some fundamental development change in how we do imaging, we are more or less at the dead end of how good they're going to get without going to image intensifiers and that kind of stuff.
And what is that what type of optic is that?
So any sort of a digital optic is basically a camera.
Okay, yeah. So your
What the camera is,
thermals
there is a
and your
lens,
different.
objective lens, there is an image sensor behind it. How well you can see depends on how this image sensor collects photons and converts them into electrons.
Okay.
And especially as we get into somewhat more questionable lighting conditions where the weaknesses of optical systems really start to come out, we are now at a point where we are hitting the limits of physics. So when we start talking about one of the problems with this kind of stuff is that with rifle scopes you have to maintain a relatively decent frame rate even if you're going to relatively low light, because otherwise you have very laggy image.
Mm-hmm.
Because you are limiting, you have to keep the frame rate at something decent, let's say 60 hertz, 60 frames per second or faster. You are limiting how long you can make the integration. Integration time is how long each pixel can be collecting photons. So your signal quality is directly proportional to that. So what happens is that you were hitting the limits of the sensitivity of image sensors. Right now, we've got all these pixels so good that oftentimes at high ISO and fairly low light signal, you're looking at signal of 100 photons and it still looks pretty decent. But from a shooting standpoint, it doesn't compare to what you can do with a classical scope. The next technological advancements, potentially something called SPAD arrays, single photon avalanche diodes. It's basically like each pixel is a mini image intensifier. And there are some of these sensors out there, but they're still very expensive and they have some inherent noise issues. I think at some point they will be worked out, but there is a big question of how far down in price we can get them. Generally, the big advantage of anything done with semiconductor devices is that your ability to drive price down is much more significant than it is with the more classic metal and glass optics. Scott is right, I think, in that in terms of having full-featured and well-made conventional rifle scopes for not a lot of money, we're pretty much as low as we're going to go. Right? In today's dollars, inflation is going to change how those dollars really look, but in terms of value per dollar, I think Scott is generally correct. Scott, are you looking SPAD arrays, SPADs?
No, I was actually looking up that the KISS, the quantum image sensor, which is
Okay.
kind of does some processing, but somewhat equates to photon to pixel matching, right?
Yeah, somewhat.
Um,
Yeah, they're doing like photon counting rather than the image sensor. It's a little
right.
bit different.
And so in my mind, in my uneducated mind in this area, well,
Yeah.
not
So
uneducated,
for
but
those of you who don't know, Scott likes to pretend to be a country bumpkin. Don't believe any of that shit. Go ahead.
is I and the reason why I brought up just the whole of the industry of semiconductors earlier
Mm-hmm.
is I think I agree. Obviously, I agree with what you're saying, right? Because you're just talking about physics. It is what it is. There's not a whole lot we can do about that.
Mm-hmm.
However, some of the stuff that has really improved over just really over time. I don't know if it's any certain section of time, but is what we've been able to do on the processing side, right? So when we get into ASICs or FPGAs or
Mm-hmm.
some of the other options that are out there, we may get to a point to where we can alleviate some of those concerns that you brought up just a minute ago.
No, we can't.
Well, I mean, there's the
Post processing is not going to help with this one.
not. I get what you're saying, but if you can take that information and decrease the noise while also battery technology evolves,
Correct.
all these things combined,
Mm-hmm.
it theoretically can produce something pretty special. And in my mind, I think we're going to be okay losing a little bit of optical quality for the technology that we can gain from a camera, right? So
Within reason, yes. So for the numbers of photons we're talking about, no digital technology is going to help you. There is no noise. We will get to the point where the noise is fully discrete, and you can't do anything about it. That's one, right?
right, but some of the
The
benefits you
batteries
get,
are going to change. The batteries are going to help dramatically.
right?
So, um,
And why on the battery technology? Is it the way it's pulling the energy out of the battery, the amount of storage?
Well,
just how long you can run without recharging.
the big thing is so you don't have to carry a car battery around to supply it.
I'm here. Dude, this is the most interesting conversation, man. I'm all ears. This is awesome.
Here's what happens. So the image sensors are not super power hungry, but they're getting better. But they do draw on the battery a good bit.
Right.
And if you're trying to clean up that image with post-processing as much as humanly possible, which is what Scott was talking about, with better ASICs and other things, there that all of that is also power hungry.
Yeah, processors are inherently power hungry.
Correct. And if you are talking about pure digital imaging devices, basically when your battery is dead, you're dead. And that is a very difficult psychological barrier to penetrate. That's one of the problems people having with thermals right now. With thermals, interestingly, there are more avenues to miniaturize and make things less expensive. Several companies are doing clever things. Actually brought this thing here, right? So this is my phone. And at the bottom of it is a little thermal module from Seek Thermal. It's like $300 or something. This is the size. If you want to build a thermal for close CQB stuff, this is almost sufficient size, right?
Yep.
So you're looking at yourself, right? Okay. There's a reflection of me in the screen and all this sort of stuff. Okay. This little thing is a thermal camera.
Yeah.
With a very slightly bigger lens on it. This one is a fairly low resolution, etc. But in terms of miniaturization, what you can do with thermal, that is a big deal. It's happening, and we can do more with this, interestingly, than with day sensors, because the way you're looking at thermal sensors are never starved of signal. It may be difficult to make sense of, but there's always a lot of signal. With day imaging sensors, when you go dark, you're screwed, basically, and that is a physics problem, right?
Yeah.
So where I think the future is, you have a cat also? I thought you only had a dog. Okay.
3 dogs, 1 cat that acts like a dog most of the time.
The closest I have to owning a cat, I have a suppressor called Fat Cat on the Yankee Hill, because my last name in Russian means cat. So when I saw a suppressor called Fat Cat, I had to get it.
Oh, I'm changing your name in my phone right now.
Fat Cat.
No, I got a better one.
All right, I guess I know what I'm going to be taping to the target next match.
There you go. Would you like me to send you a selfie so you have a good high quality image?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
But some of the things that I'm talking about, that I think are, they're obviously not right around the corner. Some of them are. Is when we do go to digital, obviously, the systems are going to have AI on board. They're going to be able to tell you, is that RAM legal right off the bat, right? It's going to, if you're scanning targets, you're going to have instant ranges through passive ranging, through pixel count and machine learning on the size of the target. You're going to, instant, how much of a hike is it across that canyon, because it's able to see something that can give you some sort of range without any kind of lasers, right?
Correct.
So image stabilization, so many things, right? And that's what I meant earlier by, I think a lot of people are going to be willing to sacrifice the little bit of loss that you get going from an afocal optic to a camera system.
Don't worry, Utah will make it illegal to hunt with.
Not to mention an automatically ballistically compensating reticle on the fly for whatever cartridge you want to put in it. You can just enter the cartridge and boom, it's got your ballistics.
It just
as long as you have sensors on board. So there's a lot of ways to do it. And since you brought up like the Vortex Army scope, that's kind of best of both worlds, because you have your afocal optic and then you have a display piped in.
Afocal optic, it just means a conventional rifle scope, glass and metal.
Correct. Yeah. so non-digital.
Thanks for explaining to me that like I'm a kindergarten because I needed it. I will take that for all the listeners. Okay.
So
That's a good point. I was going to make fun of the listeners. I should be just making fun of
Just
Eric.
make fun of me. I don't know what that
Right.
means.
So, all right, let's do a little bit of a basic optical education. So
Now let's
afocal
go finish
optic-
real fast.
hold on a second. He's a patient man. So what afocal optic really means is just something that produces information to be consumed directly by a human eye,
Okay.
not digitized into a computer, etc. What happens internally doesn't matter. Technically, a digital rifle scope is still an afocal optic, kinda, because it has an eyepiece that spits out an image for consumption of the human eye. But on the inside, it works very, very differently.
Right. The eyepiece is afocal.
Conventional rifle scopes are afocal optics.
Okay.
Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, there are displays down in what looks to be like where the base of that system. And then they get piped up into a beam splitter to get focus back at your eye through the rifle scope system. So essentially you can get best of both worlds because you can hook any camera. Now you can hook up any camera up to that system, right? And so it's into the same, you can have the same displays in there as what a thermal scope uses, the same micro displays that a thermal scope uses. So
is that where the modularity comes in? You can swap the type of camera.
You can. There's nothing in the program currently for that, but yes, there are absolutely. You can see on there where there's places where you can attach what the military calls enablers, right? Whether that's a CMOS camera or a thermal camera or a different rangefinder, you can take that rangefinder off of that scope, right? They're basically just hot shoes that it's sitting on. So what that scope does currently is basically gives you an instant aim point, right? So it does a few other things with the displays that it's kind of government IP. I think it's been talked about by the government, but I'm not sure.
Just hold it to yourself. Yeah.
But but you got to remember there's some of the obvious things that I know you can talk about is there's also a very precise compass in there. So with a compass and a rangefinder, those of you that have been in the military know what you can do with that. So essentially, you could, if you wanted, you could watch TV shows in there all day long if you had a way to pipe it in, right?
Well, there is a way to pipe it in, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's yes. So, but in my opinion, it's like it's kind of the best of both. It's kind of best of both worlds, right? Because now you have an afocal scope and a digitally capable scope because the displays are in there already, right?
So the reason why I had this picture kind of already, not that I was going to explain to Scott how Vortex scope works, but again, not everybody has been following this, and I've been following this very, very carefully. The weakness of a purely digital scope is that if your battery dies, you're pretty much dead in the water, and a lot of that's going to be alleviated by the next generation of batteries if you have more than 24 hours of runtime. That's probably going to be good enough. Right now, we are in a 4 to 8 hour runtime range, depending on how you run it. What this scope does, it's a conventional low power, relatively conventional low power variable from 1 to 8 power magnification range with a 30 millimeter objective. It's a front focal plane rifle scope with a perfectly normal edged reticle that you can use like a perfectly normal rifle scope, very, very nicely, optically and nicely worked out. In addition to that, it's got the electronic wizardry in there. And the wizardry really comes down to a couple of things. There is a fairly high resolution display that is piped into the optical path, so it is fully overlaid with a conventional edged reticle. And the display is high enough resolution where, for example, you can take an image from a thermal camera and overlay it if you want. Okay. The configuration that you see here in this picture, what is on top of the rifle scope is a removable module. And this particular one is a weapon-mounted laser rangefinder. There is a ballistic computer in the system. So, for example, in this iteration, what it does, it can measure the distance to the target. It has environmental sensors, inclination sensors, and everything like that. Work up a proper ballistic solution, give you the exact electronically generated aiming point overlaid on your edged reticle. If all these electronics die, you have a perfectly normal 1 to 8 by 30 scope. And when electronics are alive, you have a significant amount of augmented capabilities. In my opinion, this is probably one of the most misunderstood designs out there. And conceptually, it is the future where we're kind of going. Because I think the conventional afocal telescopic rifle scopes are here to stay for quite a long time. I think
Oh
it's
yeah.
the majority of the people will not give up the normal analog rifle scope anytime soon. The system interesting got crapped over by a lot of wannabe commentators who started talking, oh, it's too big, it's too heavy, it's not a general purpose optic, etc. They're forgetting two very, very important things. It is big and heavy when you compare it to a regular scope. It's not a big and heavy when you compare it to a regular scope with a laser rangefinder, ballistic computer, and everything else.
And a
Right?
mount.
And a mount and all that. Right?
Yeah,
Like
and I
it's
mean
kind of
it reduces the amount of extras you have to carry too, right?
reduces the amounts of extras, integrates them together, makes them work together seamlessly. The most important part, this is the first time where this fully augmented analog plus electro-optic system has been shown and made to work under harsh conditions, survived military testing, and created a system that is expandable. You can hook it up with a laser rangefinder, with a thermal camera, with a variety of other external things, well, that we don't need to talk about. You can set this up in a bunch of different ways. You can pipe in data through 3 different means, 2 hard connections and 1 wireless. Okay. And you can connect it to digitized night vision, you can connect it to digitized thermal, you can connect it to a laser rangefinder, you can connect it to a bunch of different shit. You can hook it up to an observation pod from somebody else, right? Remember, for the military applications. As we go along, as this technology develops, right now it is expensive and it is unique. It'll get smaller, it'll get bigger, it'll get lighter, it'll get heavier. There will be a million permutations of it to fit a variety of different niches. The electronic parts are going to get smaller, as I've talked about earlier. Everything based on semiconductors has the capability of getting smaller and cheaper much faster than the analog stuff, and it will happen. And you will basically have several baseline analog optics that can take this kind of stuff in. Okay.
Yeah,
So my
one of the
yeah,
I
go
was
ahead.
going to say the biggest cost driver on that system right now, and probably will be for the foreseeable future, is the 1550 rangefinder.
Correct. But you don't have to, it does have to be 1550. You can take a element, make
Exactly.
this little $500 rangefinder that's conventional 905 nanometer. You can hook up any
Exactly.
rangefinder you want as long as it has the communication module.
100%.
Right.
So the reason, obviously, the reason for those that don't know, the reason it's 1550 is because it's for military, right? And so basically, with 1550, it gets you out of the near IR spectrum and keeps you lower than the mid wave and long wave system. So yes, you can see it with shortwave cameras, but not a lot of people are running shortwave cameras.
Not yet.
Typically, they're attached to helicopters and
Okay.
tanks and
No, we have plenty of handheld
ships
ones.
and whatnot. What's that?
We have plenty of handheld ones.
Yeah, but
They're not as common. They're not as common yet.
they're not as common, and they take a lot. You need better
So
bring a lot of batteries with you.
yeah, another big advantage of the 1550 nanometer laser rangefinders is that it gets you out of the spectral range that your eye is sensitive to, so you can have a more powerful laser while still keeping it eye safe.
But it's safe, yeah, it's safer.
But the big reason why I brought this little thermal camera module here, so I can take this and add a little communication module and pipe in an image from this little tiny thing, into that vortex, match the field of view, and give you a thermal overlay on a conventional image. This is how big it can be. Okay.
Yeah. For those, just for those that aren't aware of this, essentially, if you look at a thermal scope, a thermal rifle scope, and think about how big that is, the only difference between that and what Ilya just showed you is the thermal rifle scope. The only extra part that the thermal rifle scope has, as far as the camera is concerned, is the micro display.
Exactly. Yeah.
And in which case, and the eyepiece, yeah. And in which case, so eyepiece and micro display.
Correct.
And so, and in this case, Ilya is using the phone as the display. So that so it's no different. There's just no rifle mount on it currently, and there's no eyepiece.
They use a bigger lens for imaging, etc.
Yeah, it's a narrow field of view, of course.
Yeah. But it's you can absolutely, you want to do CQB with a thermal with that Vortex XM157, you can have a thermal module the size of your thumb attached to it that weighs 2 ounces, and you'll be good to go, and you can make this work.
Yeah.
So that, in many ways, is the way of the future, right? Until that technology becomes a little bit more available, what we've got is different other means of electro-optic integration. And what I always bring up is the Burris's XTR-PS rifle scope introduced this year, which does not give you active reticle, does not have all that wizardry. What it does, it gives you a little display inside the scope where an elevation turret is digitized, and there is a small ballistic lookup table inside, and you can just look at something and lace the target and dial your distance in yards or meters or whatever distance units you want. It's got an electronic level, counter, it's a couple other things, and it will give you in a display what you need to dial it, and it will give you an idea what you need to hold in terms of wind, and you're good to go. You can buy that right now for more or less the same amount of money as you spend on conventional rifle scopes.
Yeah, I'll tell you that. I'm not sure why that scope's not getting more attention. It is really, really well done, and at an exceptional price point.
I'm with you. Look, I built a rifle for my son. Guess what scope I put on it? Like, you guys know what I do here. I can put any scope I want on it. It all costs me the same. I put XTR-PS on it.
Yeah.
Look, remember earlier in this conversation, Aaron mentioned that TIC is a great rifle that has a little bit of a marketing issue. I just want to point out that Burris is owned by the same company that owns Beretta.
That's true. No offense, Sky. We love you, Sky.
Yes, so Sky is a good friend, but he's not in marketing. He's
I know.
Yeah, it's. I'm super friendly with the guys from Burris and Steiner. They're good people, but what they do is marketing malpractice.
Yeah, I will. And I don't think it's any fault of the. I don't think it's any fault of the U.S. side. It's it runs rampant in European-owned companies.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you can name any of them.
Yep. I agree with you.
I agree with you. I happen to import.
You bring in UF Pro. You know how this works.
Well, and so I bring in UF Pro, which is a tactical uniform clothing, different things. But I also bring in the sister company, and the marketing between the two is night and day difference. I bring in Linderhof Taktik, which is a German company, and they don't have any brand recognition in the U.S. and don't know how to market.
I've never heard of them.
Exactly. They make some of the best web gear you've ever seen, and you've never heard of them. Linderhof Taktik.
And you sell them, right?
Yeah.
So at some point when you talk about that, I'm beginning to do black rifle matches and stuff, maybe I need to accessorize.
Yeah, we can talk about it. They make some of the best chest rigs and plate carriers. They have a proprietary buckle. Like most, like if you're not using Velcro, you have that pull down, whatever it is, the latch or the buckle. You pull it down. Well, they have one that's omnidirectional. You can pull it any direction you want. It pops right open. Yeah. And you just snap it back any direction. So they got some cool stuff, but
and they can to spread the word about it if their life depended on it.
They need to put some resources into it. But
So the
I
problem
mean,
with Burris
same with Burris, right? Like I was just looking at the top rifle scopes used at the PRS finale, and I don't even think Burris was on the list.
It's not. And for the money, I can make a solid case of it. Next XTR Pro, next XTR PS, Burris pretty much has it. So
yeah, even that that PH Hunter, the PH Hunter that they sell. I mean, when that came out, I mean it's what $800 or something.
Which one?
The Burris PH, the
one before it.
Yeah. The hunting version of it. Yeah, you can buy one for $1,000, which is amazing.
And I mean, and you can't even tell there's a display in there. Like the profile, I mean, excellent freaking job. It's I don't know, and again, I will tell you, like the few people I know that have like Burris eliminators from literally 2007 or whatever, right? Not that they've had one, because I think we're on Eliminator 5 or 6 or 7 now, right?
Six now. By the way, much better.
Right, and that seems like a fantastic idea. But there's something missing there, and I'm not even sure it's marketing, because it just gets you up, especially once you integrate the rangefinder. I think it gets you up into a price point to where you're kind of in that knowledgeable user base that doesn't necessarily want that. They want the better optics, right? And for those of you who don't know, anytime you integrate a rangefinder into an optical system, as far as like the rangefinder being inside the actual optic, using the afocal optics lenses to do some of its work, you're going to have you're introducing things that are going to make the optics not as pleasing to the eye.
It degrades the clarity just slightly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So there is a comment here. Burris needs to partner with Eagle Ballistics. Anybody knows what Eagle Ballistics is? Never heard of them.
I'm not sure. Is that one of those? Is that one of the laser mounted or laser?
Is Eagle
weapons mounted laser rangefinders?
Are they the ammo company?
I don't know. Well, now we're pulling up Eagle Ballistics.
Yeah,
I about got it up.
That's ballistic for PRS and long range hunting. Never heard of them before.
No, it's a ballistics app.
Okay, maybe.
Gotcha.
We can have a nice discussion what Burris needs to do. I've had that discussion with them fairly regularly. There is a kind of a good comment here from Mr. Cunt Bucket, still the best name in YouTube. So this is really, I think that's about XM157. Oh, James Eagleman. James Eagleman is working with tracked optics, so I don't think he's going to be working with Burris.
Oh, that's Eagle
I've heard good
Ballistics.
things about James Eagleman. I don't know him personally. So Cunt Bucket. So this is really a full-blown platform then. It sounds like you can essentially accessorize it to fit exactly what you need. That was about the XM157, correct. And that is the exact idea of it.
And I agree with Ilya on that. Like, and Scott, they both said, I mean, I think that's your future optics, like being able to swap out modulars. Like, it would be killer to have a typical rifle scope that you just put a little night vision device on it, or you put a thermal device on it, or a range, because like otherwise you've got to line it up in front, you've got to make sure your gun's set up, you got to make sure everything is, which going back to talking about the Seekins rifle, right? They machined that rail all the way across to have the same MOA in it. So when you go to clip on a night vision or you go to clip on a thermal, it's a seamless transition versus having to fiddle with it. But I want Vortex to release that scope to the civilian world. I'd go buy one tomorrow.
Eventually, technology is going to proliferate, right?
Yeah, it will. I'm just impatient.
But, to add on to what you just said, when you put a clip-on thermal night vision in front of the rifle scope, you just blocked your conventional day channel.
Right.
Aside from the fact you have to put it in a handguard and deal with all that sort of stuff, right? With the XM157 method, you are not blocking your conventional data channels for
Right.
I hadn't thought about that. That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
Because
And everything
you're sticking basically a light inhibitor in front of your
exactly right.
optic.
Well, so
Yeah, you
night
can't
vision,
see through. You can't
Yeah,
see
night
through a
vision
camera.
thermal tripods, they are
hadn't thought
on
about
my
that.
side of the fence. They're called wavelength converters. You are taking
Okay.
in one wavelength, converting it to another, spitting it out for the consumption by your day optic. With the XM157 architecture, you are never blocking the day channel.
How does that meme go? It's like Vortex, just send it to me. Have you seen the meme where the guy's like the credit card, just
Oh yeah,
just put it on the credit card? Like the moment I saw that released, I was like, man, 10 years from now, I'm buying one when they release it to the civilian market.
It will proliferate. They'll detune it somewhat. Some of the military stuff will not be.
Oh, it will. It will.
It will proliferate. But that, in my opinion, from an architecture standpoint, because the architecture is so flexible, you can do it in a variety of different ways. You can package it differently and all that. But from an architectural standpoint, I think that is absolutely the way of the future.
Do you think you could translate that into a higher magnified optic?
that was actually done first.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. Look, I'm asking questions. I'm learning, having a good time here.
So there is one other technology that's out there that will achieve the same result by slightly different means, but it's not in a product yet.
Okay. Parallax. How does like on a higher magnified optics? How would parallax affect the input from the other?
It's irrelevant, basically, because you're looking
Irrelevant.
for the far away. It makes no difference.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Parallax only makes a little bit of a difference when you're really, really close. As you start looking further away, it's actually less and less critical.
There you go. Learned something new today. Bam. I'm going to write these down. Things I learned from Scott and Ilya.
But yeah, no, the first...
Aaron is writing down there, I may be a Mormon, etc., but I think these guys are fucking morons.
I'm a baby, okay? You guys have got way more experience than I do.
Yeah. So this is kind of a fun story. So I just said the first scope that we did was a higher mag scope, right? So what happened, it was very interesting. So I had a meeting scheduled with a certain tier 1 element at SHOT Show, and with optics, they tend to a lot of times consult with a certain optics PhD out of Sandia Labs.
Oh, I know him.
Yeah, he's very, very well known. Good, great guy. And he came into the meeting with them one year, or actually, let me back up. The year before that, actually, that same tier 1 element came in, and it was actually the sergeant major of CDD, and he was a pretty he could get amped up easily. Great guy, but could definitely get his point across in a way. And he just comes into our meeting and starts going off about it. If you're going to show me some scope with a disturbed reticle, and if I touch the turrets and the disturbed reticle is no longer good for its point of impact, then I don't even want to see it. And we're all just like looking at each other like, what is this disturbed reticle thing? We had never even heard the term before, right? And you got to remember, we started working with the military really around 2012 in its infancy, right? And so here we are. This is maybe 3 years later, 4 years later. So terms that were readily thrown around the military at the time, we just hadn't heard. So it was literally the first time we heard the words disturbed reticle.
So Aaron, do you know what a disturbed reticle is?
Nope. Taking notes.
So what we ended up patented it called our Vortex's version is called active reticle.
Correct.
So it's basically just a right, and so it's just.
Sorry, say that again. I did not hear that. Your comment, Ilya.
It's a trademarked phrase, active reticle.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, Vortex trademark. But disturbed reticle is kind of the military broad scope name. And really, all that means is a digital reticle that's automatically ballistically compensates after it gets input, right? Through a digital display, right?
Correct.
So he's telling us about this and kind of going off on it and blah, blah, blah. And then, so we're back at the office. Obviously, SHOT Show's in January. And I want to say that was 2016. And about, I don't know, month, maybe 2 months later, one of our self-taught optical engineers, so didn't even go to school, but taught himself optical engineering while working at Vortex. He's like, I think I know how to do this. And so he started designing it, and it was based on our AMG 624. Since we made that in-house, 100% in-house, we had total control over it. And
are you talking about Sam?
No, Caitlin.
Okay.
So Sam is also a self-taught optical engineer.
He's very good.
Yeah. So he, I want to say around September, maybe October of that same year, he calls me down to look at it, and basically, we weren't expecting. I can tell you, when you put displays and stuff, especially for something that really hasn't been done. And let me back up a little bit. So in order to get a disturbed reticle where the reticle stays correct, no matter if you touch the turrets or not, you either have to put sensors in the turrets and have the display in the second focal plane, or you need to put the display in the first focal plane, which nobody had ever done before. And as you'll find out here in a second, people must have tried, but had just never succeeded. So we were just hoping we'd be able to see something in the display. We didn't think, the first time we turned it on, we thought there's no way it's going to be bright enough. It's probably not going to be focused. It was really the first time we had done anything with beam splitters and displays and whatever. And so anyways, they turn this thing on, and it's like daylight bright and like 99% focused. Like talk about the stars aligning. It was unbelievable. And so literally by next SHOT Show, we have a working demo unit with a demo software package in it to kind of scroll through and show you the examples of what can be on the display and the scope and whatnot, right? And so fast forward to this following year, 1 year later, and this optics PhD from Sandia Labs comes in with this tier 1 element, and so we start passing this demo scope around, and I'm kind of following it around the meeting room. And as he gets it, his name's Brett. All right, so we'll just call him Brett. I don't want to share his full name I don't know if he'd be okay with it, but so it gets to Brett, and he's looking at it, looking through it, kind of going through some of the demos within the display, and he'd kind of set it down, and he'd look at me, and then he'd look back at the scope, check it out a little more, look at me, and he's kind of shaking his head. And I can't tell if he's impressed or, why are you wasting my time with this? Or, what he's thinking, And finally he kind of sets it on the table and lets out a big sigh. And he goes, so for those of you who don't know I'll just say that there was an IPT, which interpersonnel, whatever the hell IPT stands for. Basically, all of SOCOM gets together and they brief before SHOT Show.
Real quick, for those of you who are watching it from locals only allows live streams for 2 hours. So in 40 seconds, it is going to kill it. We're still on Rumble, YouTube, and Facebook. Just switch over to another platform. Go ahead, Scott.
So and we're at a peak point here in the story, so I'm gonna have to change over.
Cliffhanger.
I have faith in you.
So he lets out this big sigh and he goes, 3 days ago, I just briefed all of SOCOM and told them that if anybody at this show or in this industry tells you they have this technology, that they're full of shit. And now I'm going to have to go eat crow. And so it was pretty cool.
Was that the optical guy or the operator?
That was the optical PhD. Yeah. So yeah, it moved on from there, and we ended up developing that in a sniper platform, and it was phenomenal. It was so fast. It was just you'd range and you'd have an aim point, and boom. You obviously still have to call your wind, but it's fantastic. And then then the big army put up their solicitation for the next gen, and we kind of switched gears and ended up going toward that because SOCOM was running a program, or kind of was starting to run a program for the sniper variant. It was called APVPS, so Advanced Precision Variable Power Scope. But at that point in time, SOCOM had a lot of programs running. You've seen the fruition; those guys are seeing the fruition of all those programs right now with a lot of their scopes and guns and night vision and thermals. Like some of those programs are still running right now. But so yeah. Anyways, all of that to say, the first system was a higher power system, and it hurt to see us. Like I really wanted us to continue on with that, and I was hoping, Vortex would have something by now. But
look, the point I was trying to make when I brought up this thing is that from a technology standpoint, you can put it into any Aaron. The message you just sent was private.
Oh, dang it! That's fine. Well, didn't mean to.
Yeah,
I'm going to put it up on the screen momentarily, but
I can change it.
Yeah, the point I was trying to make is that again, from an architecture standpoint, you can put it into any decent front focal point rifle scope. Doesn't matter what the base is. Can be low power variable, can be precision scope. Doesn't matter if you design for it. It translates. It's a flexible and scalable architecture where you can add any sensors to any front focal plane scope that has these means of injecting an image into the optical path. Okay, and that is truly revolutionary. We may not see it in the consumer world just yet, but honestly, there is a rifle scope on the market right now that gives you a disturbed reticle, right? That will take an input from a laser rangefinder.
The Element Prism scope.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that, together with the little laser rangefinder, it's a fully electronic reticle. It's not the same, right? It's not X757. But if you want a disturbed reticle automatically adjust to the conditions and to the measurements from ballistic rangefinder, this will give you that. The element guys didn't really know what to do with this thing. They just thought it was really cool when they bought immersive optics and they brought it out. And it has some significant weaknesses, etc. But as far as the path forward, this thing is pretty amazing. And it's $1,600.
What are your? I'm trying to remember the name of the company. They have you put an LPVO into it.
Yeah, that's Mastech.
Mastech. Yeah, Mastech. Yeah. Okay.
But the way Mastech does it, there is an image quality degradation because it's using a beam splitter outside of the optic in front.
Right.
It still works very well, but it's heavy, but it does some of what X757 gives you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
that
reminds me I need to go get one and do an article on it.
Yeah, the other downside you're gonna run into with the Mastech is you're really gonna be limited to LVPOs because
they designed it for LVPOs.
Exactly.
Designed it for other ones.
You could, yeah.
But it actually gets much, much harder when you go to larger objective scopes because what you have to do with the optics in front of the objective.
Right.
For small objective scope, that works pretty decently. what I've seen, it allows you good scalability and a variety of other things. But keep in mind, so what you Scott said, in the XM57, if you adjust the point of impact, etc., you disturb reticle adjusts to that. With a mass stack solution, if you touch the turrets after sighting in, it does not adjust to that.
Right. Okay. Yep.
You have to adjust it to the certain sighting and leave it there, if I understand this correctly. But I have not done a full eval, so I need to look at it.
No, you should be fine with the Maztec also because it's stationary. Like your passive reticle impact obviously is going to change if you turn the turrets, but if
your
you
projected aiming point is not going to track with the turret because you're looking out at a different angle.
Correct, yeah, and that's and forgive me if I didn't clarify that. That's what they wanted. So the big reason for that is for long range shooting with like thermals and stuff at night when you're on, especially on lower mags. They wanted to be able to dial the turrets to get the aim point up in the center of the field of view.
Got it, yeah. So, but anyhow, mass stack kind of gets you there. Element Hyper 7 gives you a disturbed reticle. You have a BDC that adjusts to the measured distance and environmentals and all that. There are different companies approaching the same problem from different sides. And they all increasingly are having viable solutions. I think XM57 is the most elegant of them. And again, architecturally, I think that's the path forward. But there is more than one way of doing this, and more than one company is trying it. If you get enough smart people to approach a problem, eventually you will have a few decent solutions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at what time in history is the first solution end up being the best solution?
Relatively rarely, but to be fair, the first solution we did more than 20 years ago. You just have never seen it. So,
well, not all of us live behind the curtain like you do, Ilya.
I don't live behind the curtain. What's next? You're going to tell me I live in a closet? Just because I live in New Mexico? That's not correct. Just because of my 28 years in California? How dare you identify me so incorrectly?
It's 2025. I can identify you how I want.
Yeah. Let me correct what I said. The first solution that was viable, makeable, and somewhat affordable.
It's usually not the one that wins the market race.
Exactly.
Yeah, correct. Somebody is going to learn on these lessons and do something else.
Yeah.
The catch is that, like I said, we don't know who is going to be the first company that truly makes it commercially viable. But the only thing I can tell you with great amount of certainty is that there's going to be more than one company that gets us to a commercial
absolutely.
Because it is a big market. There's a lot of money to be made here.
That's the beauty of capitalism, right?
Yeah, correct. This is one of those things that it is absolutely not a zero-sum game. Lots of people are going to do well on this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if one person did it, then they charge what they want, so you don't get any market competition.
Yeah. Interestingly, I have another idea of how to do it that I don't see anybody doing it yet. So I'm still thinking whether I should patent it or not. The problem is that if I patent it, somebody's going to find a way to work around it. Because I've looked at all the patents that Vortex and other people have on this, I can work around all of them. So, but that's
the problem. The other problem is do you really want to spend the money to hire a proper lawyer that can write a patent that other fantastic lawyers can't get around?
Yeah, there's no such thing. No matter how good of a lawyer you have, there's a way to work.
Well, typically a one that costs you $10,000 isn't going to get you a patent that that you pay millions of dollars for, right? So.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. So here's a good question from Mr. LR. I mean, isn't the Chinese market going to continue to push this? Would it not be something like from Holosun, given the traditional defense guys won't sell commercially? The Chinese are definitely trying and are going to try. Holosun's solution is hot steaming piece of garbage for now, but I'm sure it's going to get better. Holosun's solution is very different, though. They're doing this in a very brute force sort of way. And what they did is, like I said, for now it's garbage, but they'll learn on it and get better. And it may be a Chinese company that does this in a commercially viable way. I'm hoping not, but it's entirely possible. Yeah. So, have you seen the Holosun one, Scott?
The the red dot thermal.
Yeah, the red dot, one with
overlay.
thermal, one with digital
Yeah.
network. It's garbage.
Yeah, I mean it's
But it's cheap and it's there.
yeah.
Again, he's continuing. Yeah, it doesn't have to be anything super fancy, but there is a lot of demand, and Holosun or somebody like that can hit a nice price point. Honestly, so IRA made a fusion of thermal with the red dot sight that was kind of like Steiner CQT. Steiner did the CQT, which was
Yeah.
amazing. Then IRA did their version, was actually pretty good, and then it vanished. Right, and Steiner and the Infinite Wisdom, again, remember Steiner, Burris, Tika, they're all owned by Beretta, and there is something in the marketing waters over there. They did not do Gen 2 of CQT, which shocked me, because it was such a brilliant idea.
Right. Well, it was relatively expensive.
Correct. They had a way to do it for less money. I even know where they got that way. But they decided for now, at least, to not continue it. I hope they will at some point.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention, and LR just brought it up. Talus is also amazing, but also expensive.
Yeah, it's also so Talus is not set up for anything in the commercial world. And never will be.
Right.
Talus plays in the military world. That's what they do. So I'm familiar with that. Look, so all these kind of things.
Sounds like we just need Vortex to make it happen.
I mean, it absolutely will. Whether or not it gets to the commercial market before other viable solutions do, I don't know, because obviously maybe it's not obvious to everybody. To me, it is. There's the government has capacity is getting everything for the foreseeable future. So
Uncle
just not
Cheddar
capacity.
Uncle Cheddar's got deep pockets.
Well, that also, but they also want a lot of them, and there's only the capability of manufacturing them is relatively limited.
Right.
Yeah. So
I think they said that in one of their initial releases. They're like, the moment we can meet the military contract, we'll produce them for civilians, or they'll think of a civilian variant, right? So, and I understand that, right? I own a business. Capacity is capacity.
Look, also, Vortex made that little AMG 1-10, super short, low power variable. It's for various military contracts, but we are seeing a couple of hundred leak out here, a couple of hundred leak out there. So the capacity is going to go up. It's going to go out into the commercial world. So I'm really looking forward. I have a rifle already built, waiting for it, right? So, and it's a great road scope. If you haven't seen it, Aaron, have you seen the ultra short AMG 1-10?
No, I just googled it though.
It's an amazing. It's in terms of, and correct me if I'm wrong, Scott. In terms of basic performance, it's very similar to the Razor Gen 3 1-10, 2.5 inches shorter, which is
inch and a half.
Inch and a half.
Inch and a half. Yeah.
Unfucking build. Short optics are spectacularly hard to build.
Yeah.
But the fact that they managed to basically get the same performance in an optic that short is unbelievable.
Yeah, I would say it's arguably better on 1X, whereas the Gen 3 is arguably the same amount better on 10X.
Okay, perhaps, yeah. I didn't play with it too much, during one of my trips to Vortex. I had a chance to finger fuck the whole cart of them. I was pretty impressed.
Tony really likes the Gen 3 1-10.
Yeah, so do I. I have one. I love it.
I doubt he's played with the AMG one. So.
But I will say this. So generally, Japanese-made low-power variables are getting very, very good. I have that latest one from Primary Arms, the 1-8 with the diffractive reticle.
Mm-hmm.
It is impressive.
Yep.
Is the AMG line? Are all AMG lines built in America? Or are they?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
AMGs, yes.
Yeah.
I have a buddy with whatever the rifle scope AMG
6-24.
Yeah, 6-24, and he freaking loves it. He's had it for a long time.
Scope.
Yeah. Primary, man. Ilya, my opinion on that.
Yeah.
I mean, primary is. I don't know that anybody other than Vortex is moving as fast and what I would call correct directions as primary arms when it comes to optics.
Primary arms. So I'm very friendly with Marshall Lerner, the guy who owns Primary Arms. He's a good man and a good friend. And he's assembled a very respectable team. Like his team is capable. All companies have their growing pains, etc.
Oh,
Primary
yeah.
Arms is very interesting in that because they have their normal retail business, their internal optic development team is really nicely funded. They're not as all the normal optics companies were trying to bring up their capability, etc. Like they're all running into issues. You need to make money to spend money on internal development and stuff. Primary Arms, because the Primary Arms optics is a part of the business, and the part of the business where they just sell everybody else's stuff is so huge. It's a big company. Like
Yeah.
they are really well capitalized. If they really want to do something, they have the means to do it.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why the optics line has developed by leaps and bounds. I mean, impressively so.
Yeah.
And they have good people.
Yeah. 100%.
So that's that. All right. So we've been at it for about 2 hours and 15 minutes. There are a few comments. I'm going to look through the comments and see if there's anything else that we haven't addressed. For example, Jim Strater goes, Savage had the 110BA well before the RPR, to which Aaron privately mentioned yes, but it didn't shift the market like the RPR did. That is correct.
Yeah, I mean, it was there, but I was listening to the Hornady podcast, and they said, hey, if we develop a new cartridge and we can get Ruger to put it in a rifle, then we will take that. We will take that caliber or cartridge to the market. So, and that's one of the reasons things have been there. A lot of their recent bullets have been successful. Ruger will put it in a Ruger American, and they sell 4 million of them a year.
Correct.
So.
Ruger has the marketing capabilities that are significant. RPR was not a unique rifle, but it was the first time it was backed by somebody like Ruger who could really get it out there.
Right. Well,
yeah, go ahead, Scott.
Ruger, I was going to say, Ruger has the manufacturing capacity also.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah, they just bought Franklin Arsenal just for the Anderson. Sorry, they just bought Anderson just for their manufacturing capacities.
Well, Anderson was already making a bunch of AR receivers and stuff for them.
Yeah,
right. But yeah, I know all about Ruger's limitations. We make all sorts of stuff for them, and we've been working on some Marlin stuff as well, and
very cool.
So
I never cared much about the Ruger, but I was really pissed at Remington for destroying Marlin, and now I'm seeing Ruger-made Marlins that are superb. So, I'm becoming a bigger fan of Ruger than I ever was.
We made a part for the Marlin that got purchased by a different company, and if you go out and look, you can find it out there. So the Marlins are coming out awesome. The 10 millimeter is out, and guess what? Hornady released when Marlin released their 10 millimeter. They released a 10 millimeter lever action round that they put in all their lever guns, right?
I'm a big fan of 10 millimeter, so do more 10 millimeter.
Yeah,
I'm also for it. So here's a kind of a good question. I think it pertains to this discussion we just had of primary arms. Can you speak on why these companies end up selling insane reticles? Yes, I can. But based on Scott's smile, I think I should let him try this one first, and then I'll add my 2 cents.
Because more is better.
Well, I think reticles are always the bane of any rifle scope manufacturer's existence. And the simple fact of the matter is, and to Ilya, I'm going to sound like I'm beating a dead horse here, but you can ask 10,000 people to design you a reticle, and you will absolutely get 10,000 different reticles. That's just simple as that.
But only one of them is the right reticle, the one that I like.
Exactly. 100%. And that's just really what it boils down to, right? So you kind of boil it down to what you think you can sell, whether that's based off of internal SMEs or marketing research or sales numbers off of past reticles. or a combination of some of those, or a combination of all of those. You know, and that's what you end up with. You know, in the end, you know, these companies are businesses, right? If you think they're not doing what sell, now I'm not going to say every company is doing what sells, because obviously every company doesn't end up being successful, right? But if you're looking at a successful company and thinking they're doing something wrong, I promise you there's a reason they're doing it. And it's almost always going to come down to it's the one that's selling.
So with
Data drives the decision.
primary arms reticles, they developed the optics line based on the ACSS reticle. ACSS reticles made their optics line.
Yeah.
Right? They came up with the reticle. This Dimitri, the guy who designs it for them, he came up with this ACSS reticle, and primary arms made an optic for it. First an expensive one, and then increasingly the better ones. They have a very loyal fan base, and these reticles sell. The Horus that Mr. LR is bringing up again is the same basic thing. These reticles sell. I'm not a big fan of Horus reticles. I'm not a big fan of ACSS reticles and higher power scopes, although in some of the lower power stuff they actually work pretty nicely. And the reticle in this new 1:8, the BDC reticle in the new 1:8 is actually quite nice. Now that primary arms is getting bigger, you will see some reticles that are more appropriate for the people who actually shoot. Can make a really good case. I know a ton of people who've bought ACSS reticles and never shoot past 100 yards, but the reticles look cool, and that makes all the difference in the world. All of a sudden, now that primary arms is going a little bit higher end in their new scopes, they announced a reticle called the Deca G2, and if you look at it, it's a perfectly normal precision reticle without a tree and all that. They've got this new ultra short scope they just sent me that has that reticle. It's my first chance. You will see more diversification with them, but the core customer for the ACSS reticle wants that style, and primary arms are correct in making sure they don't abandon that customer. Just like as much as I generally despise Horus reticles, I think it's most of them, not all, but most of them are just a justifiably bad idea. They have a look and the marketing behind them that sells.
Okay. 100%.
Right. So, and if you get a really competent shot, you can use Horus reticles just fine. And if you have a bad shot, he'll suck with a Horus reticle just as much as he sucks with everything.
So the real question is, what's your favorite reticle, Scott and Ilya?
I personally prefer a nice clean hash mark reticle with some 0.2 or 0.25 windage holes. Mm-hmm. When I started shooting tree, we had I taught myself how to draw imaginary lines. If there was a stage where you had to hold, it's not really hard if you've ever used graph paper in your life, to imagine a graph just being there and just drawing a line from your windage hold to your elevation hold when you need to. So I will say this. I was a big advocate for us keeping the EBR-1 around for as long as we did. And it certainly wasn't just my decision, but I finally decided I wasn't going to die on that hill because the sales just nobody was buying them.
And I like the one reticle. So.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking literally, like with the Gen 2 4F27, gosh, let me try to do some quick math in my head based off, without getting too exact, well under 5% of MRAD sales.
I believe it. So, Vortex just introduced this new 4024x44 Razor Gen 3, which is excellent. And there will be, I'll pull that up in a moment, Scott. And there will be a simpler reticle for it. They're testing it. But that's most. But it's everybody understands it's going to be a low volume. The
Most
volume
likely.
is with the relatively complicated reticle. So.
Yeah, I think so we kind of have been pushing, for a number of years to put something back in the lineup, especially over the past, before I left, over the past 2 or 3 years. And the majority of that is 100%. I shouldn't say the majority is 100%. It's kind of like saying it works 100% of the time, 60% of the time. But it's driven by by PRS shooters, right? Because now the targets have become so small that it is imperative that you see your miss if you miss, and it's imperative that you see where you hit on the plate so you can just make that correction, so you don't hit the edge again, right? Just because of the wind changes, So, I think that's inevitable. It's going to happen. You'll see simpler reticles in the Gen 3 lineup here at some point. It will be very interesting to see if if they make a strong comeback compared to the tree reticles. I'm kind of on the fence in as far as what I think is going to happen. I think inevitably it's going to be numbers wise. I don't know about ratio, but definitely numbers wise, it's going to be more just because Vortex bigger. There's also more shooters now, and there's obviously more people asking for that type of reticle now. But I think it's also the louder people and the people that are actually shoot most of the time. Right. Let's face it, there's still a majority of gun owners that don't shoot a whole lot. So it comes down to just having the cool piece of gear that looks cool, and which is respectable, right? Like I'm a male, I'm a hobbyist. Like I have zero issue with that. Nobody should be giving another gun owner a hard time because they don't shoot a lot, right? Like guns are freaking cool, man. I'd much rather have people have a ton of guns and not shoot at all than have no guns.
So before I put that comment up on the screen, the latest ones, so since Aaron, you asked the question of both of us, I'm somewhat in agreement with Scott. From a competition precision standpoint, most reticles that are not too busy are fine for me. Personally, I tend to lean toward some sort of a relatively sparse tree reticles that are not enormous, don't go down too much, don't have a huge tree, that kind of stuff. But I've shoot plenty with Milhash reticles and they work fine. My issue mostly with reticles that are too incredibly busy, like a lot of the Horus reticles, some of the precision reticles that Primary Arms has done just don't work for me. But they've got this reticle called Deca G2 coming. That's a perfectly normal Milhash reticle. So my arguably big approach, especially as I get older, there are some of the reticles that are just ultra thin. And I think that's a little bit misguided. But again, companies sell what most of their customers demand, right? So here's a good question here from Mr. LR. Goes, I guess while we have Scott here, do you think we'll ever see something like the EBR-7F in other scopes? .mil guys love those BDCs, Legacy Leopolds, etc. Is it too expensive for the civilian market? 7F is that in a 1-6, that's diffractive second focal point reticle, right? Is that what 7F is? What is 7F?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, so
so I'm going to pull it up. You can start talking. I'll pull it up on the screen.
So. It's too expensive of a technology to put in anything less than a Razor scope at this point, quite honestly.
There it is. I found it. Let me put it up on the screen. So, do you want to give us a little bit of history on this reticle design?
Yeah, what makes it so expensive?
Diffraction grading.
Okay.
Yeah, so to have the true daylight bright glass reticle.
Okay.
Was this done for the British contract or for SOCOM guys? I don't remember.
This is done for a I think it's I don't work there anymore, so it's not advertising.
Okay.
It's done for a group that their command is in Fort Benning, that is under
Okay, got it.
SOCOM. That is a JSOC element,
Okay,
but
got it.
also SOCOM.
Yeah, all right, that's fair. So I've done a couple of live streams on reticles. So what Scott's talking about is diffractive illuminated reticle. Basically, it allows you to do a better photon management. You get a nice day bright reticle that is glass etched. So the day bright reticles we see with fibers, they're not glass etched. Those are wire reticles, so there are limitations. What else you can do with it? If you want to have, let's say, BDC tree like you see in this reticle, and make it day bright, diffractive is the best way of doing this. So the price of diffractive reticle has gone down. Light Optics Works figured out how to do their own. Origin was just a Swiss company called IMT. So we might see it in something a little bit less expensive, but it's never going to be in $300 scopes. So that's just
Yeah, and
it.
I don't know if anybody's interested, but we can very quickly kind of talk about. So the reason why these reticles get so expensive is because one, you have two steps going on. So you have a tolerance issue. So there's a lot of fallout. There's also a lot of debris. But what the two steps is getting the diffraction grading lined up with the traditional etching or the chromium.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got an issue there. So there's fallout. You can literally have a run where 90-95% of the reticles are good, and the next run can be 90-95% of the reticles are bad. And then on top of that, you literally have an optical system on the edge of the reticle focusing the LED light to that diffraction graded portion, so you don't lose. So with traditional etch and fill, you just have an LED on the edge of the reticle, and it's just throwing light across the reticle and reflecting what it can back to your eye.
Yeah.
With a diffractive reticle, you're focusing a beam onto that diffraction portion and getting
a very specific angle. It has
at
to
a
be
very specific angle. Very specific angle, because it's actually bouncing its way to there. It's not going directly to it.
Okay.
And then straight to and then collimated back to your eye. And so you get the majority of the brightness that way, and that's why it's as bright as a red dot.
Yeah, and also has another advantage is that it doesn't really have any forward signature.
Well, no, it does. It has a ton of forward signature actually, really? unless you block it, which so
from where is the forward
signature
coming?
What's that?
From where is the forward signature coming? You don't have any diffractive nodes going forward.
Well, yeah, but the diffractive pattern, you've got the negative of the diffractive on the backside.
They're not. You can cancel it out with a sophisticated grading.
I can tell you, they originally did that.
Mm-hmm.
It introduces even more complication for alignment, and
the alignment becomes tricky. Yes.
It becomes very tricky. And there was one guy in the world that I'm aware of that had the tribal knowledge in the manufacturing process to accomplish that, and he retired, and they kind of went away at that point.
That's interesting.
But if you take a Swarovski, for example, Swarovski 1-6, 1-8, or any of them that have the diffractive, because Swarovski was the first company to do it, right?
Correct.
Swarovski.
In the G6i, yes.
Yeah, Swarovski is a fascinating company, man. They have some dudes that understand light over there.
Yeah.
More so than probably most other optical companies, at least definitely companies that make rifle scopes for sure.
Yeah.
But you can, if you turn that, if you take that Z6i, either the original one or one that's made today, you can turn it around backwards and use it as a red dot.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the only ones that are blocked, to my knowledge, currently are the the Night Force contract SOCOM 1-8 attackers.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Maybe I need to revisit that.
Yeah.
But either way, so the diffractive reticle is relatively expensive to manufacture and relatively expensive to build. But we're seeing it more and more. So Element has this new medium power scope, 2 to 10 by 42, that has a diffractive reticle. She works very nicely. It is truly day bright, and that's a good application for it. And that's the one that Light Optics Works does in-house without IMT. Primary arms, the diffractive reticle on the 1 to 8 is also LOW's own, and it works very, very nicely. And we are going to see a couple of 1 to 10s come out with that reticle. Yotech has one. I'm not sure Delta's going to have one. So it's going to be coming out, but you'll see it in scopes that are $1,500 or more, primarily.
Yeah.
1,400.
Yeah, there's one other company that does it also, Ilya, but it's not any cheaper than IMT.
Okay. Who else does it? I've seen the Taiwanese prototypes, but they're not very good. I don't think they were ready for prime time. I only know of IMT Light Optics Works. I don't know who else does.
Yeah.
IMT's patent expired. Somebody was bothered to do it.
Right. And then and Swarovski still has their own patent. I believe Leupold has a patent, not on the diffraction grading, but how they're piping the light in. And that's where
Correct. So
Swarovski
both
has it.
Leupold and Swarovski are buying just the etching from IMT and doing their own illuminator. Everybody else using IMT buys the whole cell with the illuminator.
Yeah.
Okay, Aaron, you still with us? You're learning more about reticle illumination than you ever wanted to know.
What I learned is I need a Gen 2 Razor 1 to 6. That's what I learned.
That
scope is really nice, I gotta say. So
that thing, I'll tell you that scope kind of set its precedent, man. I mean, it's I don't know that it'll ever totally go away.
So when I learned how many Gen 2 1 to 6s Vortex made, I just about fell out of my chair.
There's a bunch out there.
And I will say, so I have a test systems in the armory at Fort Bragg, where they equip all this stuff for SOF, and I've seen how many 1 to 6 razors they have there. It was impressive.
Yeah. I think if I mentioned how many scopes Vortex puts out of any line, most people would fall out of their chairs.
I think that would be very proprietary, and let's not do that.
Yeah, no. One thing I will say this, just because it's a point of contention. I would never say it when I was working there because it's just not the personality of Vortex to say something like this. But I'll stick up for them now in this front. Because they're just not a company to pat themselves on the back. There's just not the way, just not the atmosphere. And when you see these people on the internet commenting, it's like comments like, oh, you're going to need the warranty and this and that. And it's like, well, okay, let's think about this logically. Think about every other scope you've ever heard about having an issue from every other company. Is that more or less than Vortex alone? Because I can promise you that is the comparison you should be doing. Because they sell as many scopes as every other rifle scope company combined.
I believe it. Look, so if you go on the internet, we're talking about the Razor Gen 2 1 to 6. Everybody and their grandmother is gonna start telling you stories how they've seen 8 of them fail all at the same time and all this other stuff. And I've seen hundreds, if not many hundreds of these scopes in hard use by all sorts of interesting agencies out there. And when I ask them how often do these fail, they'll go, well, I've seen one fail about 3 years ago, I think. And because we hit it with a break or something.
I've only seen a handful of scopes fail.
Yeah. Well, I've seen scopes fail. Look, I've broken all sorts of them, but I can't. And Lord knows, like other than Scott, right? There are probably. I don't think you will. Other than Scott, I don't think you will ever run into a person who has been hands-on with more rifle scopes than I have. You basically have to work for a big manufacturer to see more rifle scopes than I.
Yeah. No, as I got introduced into the precision rifle, Vortex had kind of and I agree with Ilya, right? Like about 2014, 15, 16, yeah. Vortex had a bad name, but yeah. I dig Vortex. You want to buy a electronic anything, Vortex, right? Like not only the warranty, but it's a great company. They support the sport more than any other optics company, hands down. Pretty sure I have a Vortex banner sitting on the floor over there from when they supported me and my rifle match. But I don't know. Become a big fan, right? The electronic warranties are part of none. Like it's just, and then they make good stuff. Like,
well,
I'm waiting for Ilya to get bored with the 4-24, so he'll send it to me.
It's gonna take a while.
Yeah. Yep.
So, what is it about Vortex that makes them so competitive relative to companies like Leupold? It's actually a very good question.
I would. One of the things is that it's a fantastically ran company, and the employees are. It's a wonderful culture where people want to do good work. The leadership you want. You don't. I can tell you there was not one day in my career there where I looked at the clock and went, "Oh, it's only this time." It was quite the opposite. It was like, "Oh, it's already this time? Shit." So, and then one of the other things that is I think something that can go across the board with any company, like it or not, if it's a well-ran company, these big companies have the money to do development and testing that the other companies don't.
Correct.
And then on top of that, when you buy Vortex, there's no risk in trying them and I think that's the biggest thing, right? Like if you buy a Vortex scope and decide a month later you made a mistake, like Vortex is not going to stick you with that scope. Call them up, let them know, like, hey, this thing just isn't working with me. Like you're going to get a refund. It's literally no risk trying a Vortex, and I don't know of another company out there that'll do that as far as rifle scopes go.
So having visited quite a few companies, I will say this: I'm friendly with quite a few of them. As far as the atmosphere at the company, Vortex is unlike anything else I've ever seen. And just they were the first. Let me finish this. They were the first rifle scope company that I've seen that knew how to market themselves and their products.
That's what I was about to say. Is
it's everybody else meets the internet age, and Vortex didn't.
Vortex is a marketing company that makes rifle scopes. Like they are so good at marketing. Like I typically refer to Vortex as a marketing company that just happens to make rifle scopes because they are that good at marketing and brand permeation into the market. Like how many trucks do you drive by that has a Vortex sticker on it? Like it's everywhere. Hats, shirts. It's like Browning. Do you know who makes more hats? Nike, Adidas, Richardson. You know who makes the most hats in the world every year? Sells the most hats? Browning. Browning's a hat company that makes guns. Like it's crazy.
Okay, that's funny.
Vortex is probably number 2 because they make a lot of hats too. But
so here's an interesting question. It feels like we're talking about early 2000s Colt. I know nothing about early 2000s Colt. So anybody have any insight into what this means?
I was like 3 years old then, so I have no idea. Just kidding. I was like 12.
I think basically Colt was kind of the most highly regarded.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted an AR, like it was the top of the line.
Okay.
Like everybody wanted it, and everybody kind of knew that. That's my recollection, whether that's accurate or not. But
I live
if I'm taking a stab,
we didn't have Colts.
Is that kind of like the Remington 700?
Yeah.
or
complacent.
complacent. Gotcha. Okay, he's talking about right after that.
Right on.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, so, and Scott can talk to this because he worked for Vortex. Vortex felt a little complacent when I entered the market, but they're not complacent, not at all.
Right.
So-
I can tell you why.
Mhm.
I can tell you why you felt that way, because it was somewhat true, but it wasn't for the reason you think. Right? It wasn't for complacency. It was because we started working on that next gen program and had to rebuild our commercial engineering department.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So
Because
I mean,
all the
that's a-
engineers went
that's
to
a-
the work on the military side.
yes.
Oh.
Yeah, basically all, Kalen's team and Sam,
Mhm.
so
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 So, like-
disappeared from the commercial set completely around that
shifted
time.
priorities over a little bit. Okay.
essentially,
Mhm.
it wasn't necessarily priorities. It wasn't like it was. I mean, it kind of was. Jesus.
Oh,
I mean, when you look at the consumer market versus Uncle Sam's market, like Uncle Sam's market pays guarantees. You know what I mean? Like,
It does,
Is
but
what it
it's
is.
but it's very very feast or famine. The commercial market's nice and steady and much bigger.
right.
look, so Vortex right now is kind of at the top of this market overall. It's a big company, lots of resources, doing very, very clever things. It's up to them whether they're going to stay at the top or they're going to come down a little bit because
Absolutely.
of the natural evolution of the business.
And
Looking
And-
at the spirit of how the company culture works, I'm fairly optimistic about Vortex's future, but that means nothing. They can lose the grips and the reins just like everybody else does.
I mean, they're innovating and they're listening to their customer base.
It seems to be. It seems to be that way. But the competition is significant. Like I said, the way Primary Arms is coming up and some others, they're going
Absolutely.
to give Vortex a run for their money.
Which means they have to continue to innovate.
Correct. Competition is a good thing for us as a consumer. As friendly as I am with a bunch of companies, as a consumer fundamentally, and like I said, I don't owe any
Yeah.
company anything. My loyalty is to my audience, pretty much. As a consumer, it's awesome. Like this competition is going to make them better.
Yeah. Yeah,
I was
and
just-
I'll tell you, innovation only gets you so far, though.
Right.
Innovation's fantastic for the engineering department, right? Make engineers get excited about innovation. The problem is the rest of the company needs to be able to support it, right? You're talking about more IT, more marketing, more warehouse people, more manufacturing people,
What
more
would
space.
Aaron know about IT?
right?
Siri?
I don't know anything about IT. I guess I should have done a better job introducing myself to
Yeah,
Scott.
sure,
I am an IT guy by trade. So
Ah,
I work
gotcha.
I work for a very large public sector software company,
And
and
what do you
I
do for them?
own what?
What do you do for them?
I'm a software implementation and
analyst.
support manager. I run a team of 5 or 6 guys.
Gotcha.
So you know a little bit about IT. It so happens.
Well, so do
Yeah.
I.
Just a little
do I.
bit.
99, and tell me if my numbers are off here, though, Aaron. But 99% of the time, I could do IT's job.
Probably. Did you turn it off and turn it back on?
100%.
I bought a Christmas. So we're having an ugly sweater contest, right? So I work for a software company that got purchased a couple years ago, and I was the IT manager and I ran it, and it's fizzled out, right? Because corporate's taken all of the IT infrastructure and everything. But we're having an ugly sweater contest, and I found one that said, "Did you try turning it off and back on again?" And that's what I'm wearing to the ugly sweater contest. So, but you know what? That's funny, right? I worked in the medical space too, in a hospital doing end user IT, and I coined a phrase. I just started saying, like, when the ER doctor goes, "Hey, how'd you fix the computer?" I just would start saying it's magic and walk away, because you never seen an ER doctor get so pissed off when you're like, I pushed the power button on the front.
Yeah, I restarted it.
Or you kicked the power cable and it fell out of the wall. Like,
you know what the ID10T problem, right? You know what that is?
Yeah, I understand that one. My favorite is it's an impedance mismatch between the seat and the keyboard, meaning it's user error. Like,
well, back when when I worked at Raytheon, we had all sorts of people who would come in and try to tell me how to get The relatively sophisticated stuff I was working with, that's still reading your license plate from orbit, right? And I would always say that when they would come over, and I would always tell them that's a supraclavicular problem. I learned it from my brother, right? Clavicles are here. Supraclavicular means above the clavicles.
Yep.
It's a sophisticated way to call somebody a fucking moron without saying it out loud.
Yeah, that's what the impedance mismatch between the seat and the keyboard is too. Is calling them an idiot without calling them an idiot.
Yeah.
Did that hospital stuff run on Epic?
No. That's a
Interesting.
That's a funny story we can talk about offline. They went to Epic in September.
Epic's right down the road from me. Vortex and Epic are almost neighbors.
They went to Epic in September. So I worked for the hospital system when they went to Cerner. Cerner's based out of Kansas City, I think. Dude, it was a disaster. I think they lost $1 billion over the last 10 years of the crappy system. Epic was the other one, and they should have gone Epic 10 years ago, and they didn't.
Epic is actually pretty good. But anyhow, so we've been at it for almost 3 hours. I have a question for Scott that came after the last live stream we did. So I want to wrap that up and glance at the comments, and at 3-hour mark, I think we will wrap up. Somebody says hello from Houston. Howdy. So the question, Scott and I did a live stream a little while back on why rifle scopes break, right? And one of the questions I got from that, from Mr. Mega Gooch, whatever the pronunciation is, it reads as follows. Would like to hear Scott's thoughts on carrying a rifle by the scope objective. A lot of PRS guys are picking a 20-25 pound scope by the scope objective to move it around on the stage. Doesn't seem to do any harm, but it just doesn't seem like a good thing to do. Would also love to see Scott back on and discuss hard use abuse of scopes from competitors. There was a picture of a PST Gen 2 that sheared the turret off due to hitting a barricade. Okay. There was also the thread on Sniper's Hide where Frank was seeing some issues with scopes shifting due to 25-pound rifles being dropped from a low height onto a barricade bag. So let's take them one at a time. The first one is lifting a competition rifle by the objective bell. Thoughts?
Sure. I can speak to the scopes that I'm familiar with. I can give you an example of a time that I saw that was a very bad idea. And I can say, I would say as long as most of the scopes out there, and I'm not going to say all of them because I don't know all of their tube geometry. I've cut a lot of scopes in half over the years, but there's a lot I haven't. And so the critical point there, if you're going to pick it up, the risky spot, the potential failure spot where the aluminum can get kind of thin is right at the turret housing on the objective side or the eyepiece side. But most guys, you're not picking up by the eyepiece side, right? So we'll talk about the objective side. Right. And on top of that, and I think you would have to almost have a couple things going on. You'd almost need to have, like, for example, a Remington 700 with a pick rail on it that's not bedded, and your 700 is one that needs to be bedded. And so now the rail's bridged a little bit, so your rings are like this, but you've got them torqued to the scope tube, so now it's introduced this tension, and you would also need to have, this material on the scope needs to be thin where it meets up with the turret housing there.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so whether you've got a sharp edge and no radius and thin material internally or externally or both. And the reason I bring that specific example up is because I want to say 2015 out in Las Vegas, I actually saw a scope snap right at that point from picking it up. It was a European scope. It was not any of the US branded scopes. I think you can do it. I mean, if you saw how hard I hit these scopes, it's, and it's nothing compared to picking up a 25-pound rifle. That being said, I will agree with the person that it doesn't leave me feeling comfortable picking up a 25-pound. If you've picked up a 25-pound rifle, it seems like risky business, not necessarily from the scope tube structure, but just from the fact you've got rings interfacing with a rail, you've got rings that are
So
torqued to the scope
I'm gonna
tube.
shorten this a little bit. Chances
Sure.
are it's gonna be fine. Nothing's gonna happen, but it's a bad practice. Don't do it.
Yeah, and on top of that, why chance flagging somebody? Pick the scope up, pick the gun up, put the muzzle in the air. Right.
So the one way to get a rifle scope to shift 0 is to bend, deflect slightly the objective.
Yeah, and then there's that.
The majority of them will just spring back and return to 0.
Absolutely.
Why mess with it? It's like with
No.
mounts. Most mounts work fine most of the time, right?
Yep.
But there will be this occurrence where you're gonna go take a nice fancy mount, you're gonna freeze it in the winter, and you're gonna snap the hinges, right, Aaron?
Thanks, Ilya. Would you like more pictures?
No, I'm good. But
I shoot in the extreme cold, and I had 2 fell, and they didn't fell until I took the torque off. Then they crumbled like.
So sand. Scott, that's who I got the pictures from for that. So.
Yeah, I've gotten pictures from other people than you.
But the point I'm trying to make is that even if something has a relatively low probability to happen, don't fuck with it. There is no good reason to have to lift a rifle by the objective of the rifle scope. There are many other places you can grab. Don't do it.
I will say this to add to that. I would recommend definitely not doing it if you're running steel rings and shooting out in sub-zero weather.
Correct.
If you have aluminum tubes, steel rings, because those you don't know, the coefficient the CTE of aluminum is much higher than steel. Correct. So,
would you suggest running steel rings if you know you're going to be in extreme cold?
No, I would say absolutely not. Quite the opposite.
You should.
Sorry. So that's what I meant to ask. Yeah. You should use aluminum rings on aluminum tube in the extreme cold.
You should generally use aluminum rings on aluminum tube.
Okay.
You should generally use aluminum rings for the simple fact that they're just going to be made a lot more precise. Steel is just, quite honestly, I don't even know why anybody makes steel. I mean, I can tell you, even Marty at Badger Ordnance, the only reason he still makes steel rings is because customers absolutely request it.
Yeah.
He wouldn't make them if they did. He'll tell you like there's no reason.
There's no good reason to make steel rings.
I'm a fanboy of Area 419's rings. So
absolutely. John's. I mean, I would say 419 rings are. I don't think there's another set of rings out there that hold a scope as well as those rings do.
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm slowly converting all of mine over.
Yeah, I'm more or less doing the same thing.
So what was the second one? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
On ARs, I do like Reptilia ones just because of how they look, and for lightweight mount, Reptilia ones are very good.
I mean, again, gotta look stylish, buddy.
Yeah, correct. But on all the precision, for the most part, I'm switching to Area 419. Okay, so next, would love to see Scott back on and discuss hard abuse of scopes from competitors. There was a picture of PST Gen 2 that sheared the turret off due to hitting a barricade.
So they hit the barricade.
Yeah, they're through bolted on. And it depends. Is it Gen 2? He said.
PST Gen 2.
Okay, yeah, because in any turret, if it doesn't have a secondary, it's almost like a recoil lug. But if it doesn't have something out of the scope tube holding it along with through bolts or threaded in somehow. That certainly can happen. It can either shear the bolts. More than likely, it's going to pull the threads because you got steel screws, aluminum threads. But yeah, that can happen, and that's one of the reasons. That's one of the things why you spend the extra money for a razor or an attacker or tangent or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
they can still fail, but again, you're just trying to minimize the probability of a problem.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, there's a lot of little fine details that you pay for with those expensive scopes.
It comes down to what you're trying to accomplish with the whole system, right?
Absolutely.
It is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Do you think that the way these scopes are used in PRS, etc., competitions is unusually harsher on scopes than what's done with other avenues? Or because there is this thing going around, people go, "Oh, I ran that scope hard." I could never figure out what it means.
The only I'll tell you the only people I would consider running scope hard are people that don't pay for them, that have uniforms on,
Okay, that's
that
fair.
do unthinkable, unspeakable things with stuff because they don't pay for it.
Yeah.
Don't you remember? Don't you remember Tony's comment? I'll break whatever you give me.
Tony is also using that arrow mount that I told him to not use, right? So that's just malpractice.
But I would, but here's the thing too, right? Like with PRS, I would say PRS is probably the second harshest. As long as you factor in quantity of use, right? Because obviously Western hunting can be extremely hard on
what
things.
you do with these things in the mountains is pretty rough.
Exactly, but you're not doing it every weekend,
Right.
or there's a couple people in the world that are, but not very many.
You used to work with one of them for many years.
Yeah,
I've never
exactly.
seen anybody hunt as much as he does.
Yeah, well, it's his job now, so
Yeah.
He's not suffering. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and I would say your higher level PRS guys, it's a tool, and it's getting smashed into the barricade. It's getting dropped and rolled, and so they don't.
Yeah,
They're not. None of the really serious competitors baby their gear.
But you know what? I've seen them shoot. They don't baby their gear, but I will say this: they're not doing anything exotic.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. They're not purposely trying to damage it.
But even unintentionally, they're really like we. So one of the YouTube reviewers that I really like, he's like Cyclops Joe, super nice guy, great says I love the guy. He's just a good human being. He likes to do this thing to the scope. He calls it the titty twist, where it just takes it to it, goes, rubs it like this, right? And everybody's super impressed. And I'm looking at this like you did not stress anything. They designed to do this. If you did this for like a month straight, every second of every day, then maybe we'd get into some wear and tear.
Yeah. To add a little to Ilya's point, doing that to a turret is really not much different than taking a fine thread nut and bolt and going like this with holding the bolt in a bench vise and going like this with the bolt. It's literally a male and female thread.
That's all it is. You're not doing anything. You're not abusing it. You're not pressing it. You're not doing anything to it.
Matter of fact, you have a better chance of screwing up that bolt because you're running non self-lubricating metals because it's most likely going to be some sort of steel, whereas with a turret you're mostly working with something coated or brass, which is self-lubricating.
With very high lubricity coat, but they also put very high lubricity coatings.
And there's there's some lube on top of that.
So again, there is occasional abuse, and I've broken the scopes here and there. But for the most part, if you are going shooting in a match, you're really not doing anything super hard on them.
Yeah,
you're doing the hardest thing. So statistically, every once in a while, you're going to break something just because you're using it so much. That's what Scott was saying.
I mean, the biggest thing is you're exposing it to the elements. Yeah. So dust, dirt, rain, water.
My first match that I shot earlier this year, it was cold, so I cut my hand on something. Didn't even know. I bled all over my $6,000 tangent. It looked like it went to Fallujah, okay? Like dirt and grime and blood. It looked horrible. Like I showed the guys from Tangent the picture. Like,
yeah, I think I would venture to guess about the worst thing that a top level shooter does to a gun on purpose is ramming windage turret into barricade or whatever. And even then they're not on purpose, like just because that doesn't get you into position quicker, right? They're going into it slow and steady. So it's nothing. I can tell you the percussion from that muzzle brake has a better chance of doing something to a scope, but it's not going to do anything, quite honestly. Like actual shooting, very, very, very seldom will show an impact shift on a rifle scope. It takes multiple shots over time, unless there's something obviously wrong with the scope, right?
I watched 3 reticles fall out of a scope, and it had an engineer design flaw, and they fixed it.
So when you say fall out of a scope, what do you mean by that?
Like fall down and turn sideways.
So they just gotcha.
The etched lens literally fell out of the scope, like it fell down and turned sideways.
Sure, yeah, and that that may or may not have been the actual reticle. It could have been a different
it
lens.
could have been something else. But I watched 3 of the exact same model of scope do it back to back, and
Gotcha.
they had an engineering issue, and they fixed them. Right, they had changed their design. They had an engineering issue. It's the only time but it was just like first shooter got up, shot, scope fell, second shooter got up, and they were all in the same batch of scopes too. So it was
interesting.
Yeah, it was crazy to watch it. It was just like boom, 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 all 3 of them. I was like, that's crazy.
So the third question in there was there was also a thread on Sniper's Hide where Frank was seeing some issues with scopes shifting due to 25-pound rifles being dropped from a low height onto a barricade bag.
There's a lot of factors that play into that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we ended up debunking that on the hide within that thread.
All debunked, but I like that question because it brings us back a little bit to how we started this thing 3 hours ago. If you see this kind of stuff happen, it is relatively unlikely to be the rifle scope.
Yeah, 100%.
It would be it's more likely to be either the bedding or some issues with the mount or the mounting. Yeah. Like we've seen a variety of things with different mounts. We've talked about last time when people have a mount with a long clamp, they torque it in a weird way. You can have weird shifts. You can have shifts due to the contact of the bedding to the action. I've seen all sorts of weird stuff happen. It's incredibly uncommon to see a rifle scope failure that has many small shifts. Rifle scopes usually either work or just crap out.
Yep.
Right.
Usually it is catastrophic failures. Scott, you will remember this was some guy was saying that Razor Gen 3 shifts due to heat, due to temperature gradients.
Oh, yeah.
Like you told me it was bullshit, and thinking about the scope, I think it is bullshit. I spent uncountable amount of hours, and I don't know that I have all that much time to spend, on sitting in a tunnel at my range with a heat gun, trying to warm this thing up, trying to induce a heat-related shift.
I heard that as well, but I haven't seen it with my Gen 3 Razor.
I did it with more than just Razor. I spent so much time chasing it down.
But you're putting in action in an aluminum chassis or a polymer, you're getting expansion all over on the system, right?
But it's not the scope that does.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Is like you have to account for all the different tolerances and expansions, and you're holding steel actions with steel screws in aluminum chassis.
I'll say something very potentially career limiting that I've become so jaded that 9 times out of 10, maybe I assume it's just somebody's doesn't know what the people are blaming gear for their personal shortcomings.
Dang it! Right. I knew he was going to call me out.
And you can certainly momentarily induce an impact shift with heat, but you have to heat up one spot in it. You cannot have it from the sun heating up the scope. Right. Yeah, you have to use
heat up one spot with a heat gun, and I did that, and then really, really rapidly see something until that heat dissipates to the metal.
Exactly.
Metal heat very fast.
100%. Yeah. The aluminum normalizes.
Yeah.
So and dissipates all at the same time. So basically, you can put on a collimator and throw heat on one side, watch the reticle move, and then watch it go back, all within 15, 20 seconds.
The simple truth of our industry is that if you look at a typical precision rifle, it's a bunch of mechanical systems with an optical system sitting on top of it. And everybody thinks they understand mechanical systems because they don't understand an optical system. They assume that all problems come from what they don't understand.
Right.
And another simple fact here is that most of the people who think they understand mechanical systems don't. They have as little understanding of the intricacies of mechanical systems as they do of the intricacies of the optical systems.
Right. Well, the other issue too, and it's through no fault. It's through no fault of people that think this way, but they base more off of gut feelings than data.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right.
Well, anecdotal evidence is still evidence, right? So we shouldn't be discarding
it is.
either.
It is. But as we know, correlation is not causation.
Correct. Not at all.
I was about to say that.
Right. So it's
All right, gentlemen. We've been at it for more than 3 hours. So what kind of summary can we get out of this whole long discussion on guns, optics?
The future is bright, and there's a lot to come.
It's going to be interesting. Well, it's going to be an interesting couple of years from a business aspect, just because how shitty the economy is, right? So, I think we're going to see some. I think we're definitely going to see some bankruptcies. We're going to see some totally out of business companies gone. The good companies will make it through, and then what they bring us after that will be interesting.
I think there'll be companies that persevere and they'll make good money as the market comes up.
Yep.
If they get lucky, Democrats win the White House in 2028, and then the gun market is going to be awesome. Everybody's going to
maybe right, because honestly, I mean, we'll see.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
but it's going to be an interesting world from a technology. I remember I'm basically a nerdy guy who's looking at it a little bit from the side. From a technology standpoint, I was stunned with what happened to thermals. When I worked on some of the early thermal weapon sites more than 20 years ago, I never thought that we could get for $3,000 what we can get today. I did not think it would get.
Yeah. Unfortunately, only from China.
Not only from China. Like, I'm looking at the last Armasight clip, and it's not $3,000. It's closer to $4,000.
Yeah, true. Armasight is the exception. They're doing some good stuff, man.
It's actually good. They've come a long way since what I saw a year and a half ago.
Yeah, 100%.
I'll have a different video on that. I'll do the wrap up on Armasight stuff. Which is very interesting. China, unfortunately, is kind of dominating the price game, but even outside of China, there are really cool things happening. With the proliferation of stuff along the lines of the XM157, this Vortex scope that I'm so impressed with. I think I'm a little bit pessimistic about how fast we're going to see it, but I think the market's going to surprise me and get me something good sooner than I think. I'm pessimistic by nature, because again, this is, from a technology standpoint, we were doing this shit about 20 years ago in some places here and there. It was worked pretty well. It was really expensive, and capitalism finds a way to deliver to people willing to spend money.
Yeah, I mean, the economy is what it is, but that product is in a less price elastic demographic, meaning they'll weather just fine. Now, these scopes that are, and like Scott said, you're gonna see ups and downs, but
overall, I think the market has very good potential. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting because we've got kind of a double whammy, right? And maybe this should be kind of a separate podcast, but my interest really lies in this area a lot of ways these days. But we've got, with the double whammy, we've got a economy that is not great, right? Inflation, tariffs, but what's making it even worse, especially for the firearms industry, is the market is absolutely flooded from 20, 21, 22, and 23. Right? The buying that went on those years, I thought for sure would have ended by spring of 21. And it went on all the way through 23 into 24. It was unprecedented.
Everybody stepped up.
Yeah. So we'll have to see where it goes.
Yep. It is going to be interesting to see. But
yeah, I think there's going to be a fantastic used market. So if there's some things out there you guys have been wanting, that being said, I thought there was going to be a fantastic used truck market by now. And yes, prices have gone down a little bit, but I still don't have a new truck. So they haven't come down enough.
That's actually funny. I was on the lot the other day because my truck was getting serviced, The brand new ones have come down about 15 grand from the previous time I was on the lot.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
But the used truck market has not moved at all in a long time.
Yeah, I was thinking with all the, I mean, the truck market just got flooded, and I thought for sure, um, prices would come down, and they have come down. I mean, I think you can at least get an F-350 crew cab for under $100,000 now if you want. So that's good.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was on the lot, like
Yeah.
the truck I was looking at was like 100 grand. Now it's 85, so it's like
We're shopping
it's
in
come down a
different-
little bit, but 85 is still a lot.
Yeah, we're shopping in different budgets. I drive a 13-year-old FJ Cruiser with 200,000 miles on it.
Yeah, well, I drive a almost 15-year-old truck, so
I'm not gonna say what I drive.
I know what you drive.
Yeah, I know. It's a 2021 dirty diesel. I love it.
that's my I have a Chevy, which I am not a huge fan of. I'm done with IFS. I tow some heavy stuff, and I'm convinced the IFS just makes it horrible. It just floats all around. I can use my buddy's F-250 or F-350, and it's night and day difference.
Yeah.
Towing.
That's good to know because I'm in the market in a couple of years for probably a 250 or 350.
As much as I appreciate the American truck discussion, you know that Ford is an acronym, right? And you know what it stands for, right?
Yeah, you could say that about all of them, though.
What trucks does Russia make again?
The Russian trucks never break. They never move and they never break.
How do you have a rifle scope that never needs warranty? Well, you don't take it out of the box. I like
exactly right. But anyway, the point I was trying to make, that's 11:20, and I have to get up fairly early.
Yeah.
Hey, we appreciate it.
Thank you guys for
All right,
joining me.
gents.
This was a good discussion. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is much better to have you guys here to keep me on my toes than me talk nonstop for 2 hours to myself.
Scott, we'll have to talk offline one of these days. So
Yeah, of course. Anytime.
Right. Anyhow, for all of you guys who stuck with us for 3 hours and 16 minutes, I really do appreciate it. If anything in this discussion brings up new questions, please put them in the comments. I'll make sure they get to Scott and Aaron as appropriate. And next week is Thanksgiving. I'm not going to do a live stream next week. Happy Thanksgiving, y'all. And 2 weeks from now, either Wednesday or Thursday, we'll do another live stream. And I'll come up with the right topic. If you have a subject you want me to cover, maybe bring one or both of these gentlemen back. Again, put it in the comments. And if it's something interesting, we'll be happy to give it a shot. Thank you all, and have a good night.
Sounds good. See you guys.